Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Thursday night at the GSRC. We have a lovely wine and dinner combination for you tonight. The wine is Mazda MX-5s at Willow Spring, a nice rich drink that's going to pair very well with the GT4s from Zandvoort. Both very, very tight tracks, both very, very punishing tracks. Some of the most technical tracks we're going to have on the calendar this year. And it's going to make for races with a lot of mistakes and some very good racing in between, because unlike these tracks which would be wasted on a high power car, we've got nice low powered cars that can actually make use of the width that is available and still go racing even on these tight technical circuits. These are the details for Willow Springs International Raceway. A relatively short lap at 3.9 kilometers based in the USA. And as you can see, it's surrounded by dirt. So anyone that goes off track, their car is just going to keep going. It's like the old iRacing where, well, actually dirt this time around. And then after that, we will... Sorry, I've just lost my screen. It's back. Right. So, this is the grid to start with the GT4 challenge. We've got Sam Chapman on pole, 1 minute 28.5. That is an absolutely blistering pace and sets exactly the same time as Reece Gosnell. It happened in the F1 and it's happened here at the GSRC GT4 challenge with Chapman and Gosnell. On the second row is Ellis and Hammond. Behind them is Barker and Whitaker. Then it's Whitaker and Merritt, Leach and King, and it is Brendan ahead of Chris Whitaker in the battle of the Whitakers. Outside of the top 10, we have got Anthony Adhead in 11th, then David Baz in 12th, John Baldwin in 13th, Chris Stark in 14th, Schultz and Stride on the 8th row, followed by Samora and Cousins. Then Matson and O'Neill make up the top 20. We then have Hooper, Partridge, Wellman, Mason, Bobby Camo, and Wayne Visser. A packed 26 car grid around a relatively small, tight raceway. What could possibly go wrong? These MX-5s, the setup they have got on these MX-5s is relatively tail happy. So what you're going to see is a lot of cars using the off-throttle oversteer to get around some of the faster corners that they have here. And keep an eye out for that long second turner, because you might see some cars just dip a wheel into the dirt on the inside just to help them get a bit of late rotation if they feel like they need it, or if it's faster. I'd be interested to see what the top drivers in this split think. I couldn't make my mind up when I was practicing earlier. Other corners to watch out for is corner 7 is very, very tricky. So you go up the hill, you can see that in the top left-hand corner of your track map, and then you come down the hill for that left-hander, and it's an incredibly difficult corner. There's a lot of time to be had and lost there if you get it wrong, and a lot of time to get it if you get it right, but it's very much single file. So if you do make your time there, you're going to struggle to counteract the cars ahead of you. And the race has begun. All the cars getting a relatively even start because they've got traction control on these cars. So there's not that much variability, although we are seeing a couple of moves a bit further back in the field, like we do mainly to reaction times up ahead. We've got Sam Chapman and Reece Gosnell going side by side. Looks like Gosnell is just edge ahead, but Chapman will have the inside for corner 2. And he's going to make the most of that. And Goslin's going to try and, I think, slide in there in between Ellis and Chapman. As we see contact, bit further back, so that's John Merritt getting together with Brendan Whitaker. Be two of the favourites for this race going off. There's another car going off in avoidance, another car that's gone off earlier on the inside. And just you can see him sliding across the dirt, getting a full power slide. And I think that's an unsafe rejoin. And I think for Darren Mason there, looked like he might have bumped into Eduardo Zamora or another of those cars towards the back. Mikey Hammond is now in. So something's happened to Sam Chapman as well, because he's dropped down all the way to fourth, with Reece Gosner now in the lead of the race, followed by Ellis and Hammond, and then a bit of a gap back to Chapman, so he's evidently got the top of the hill wrong and been mugged by 3 cars. He won't be very happy in his Permobil MX-5. We cut back now to Guy Leach, who's up 4 spots, one of the bigger movers in the field, to get from 9th to 5th place, and is putting a heap of, well, he's in the side-by-side battle with Brett Barker. Looks like he's going to reclaim 5th place, and he needs to be careful, Guy Leach, because he's going so wide. He might open the door for outside, but manages to slot back in as they approach the final corner to end lap 1 of proceedings. Plenty of action on lap 1, and I expect that to continue, and it does indeed. Aiden Schultz getting wide and just sliding all the way out, not quite to the barrier thanks to that little hill, and he's going to have a mighty trek to get back onto the track, and he's going to lose most of the positions as we see them go side by side for corner 1, leaving plenty of room there. Very respectful racing between Hammond and Gosner. Hammond running at the top of the running towards the top of the field, which is what we like to see. Too often we see him having to fight from a bit further back, but today he's at the front and he's looking to capitalize for a victory, which we have seen him do from time to time in the GSRC. Sam Chapman looking to get back where he feels he belongs at the front of the field as he goes side by side with Hammond in the tight left hand, and there's contact. Hammond goes round. I'm not sure if he got connected by anybody else there, but Mikey Hammond is able to continue. We'll have to have another look at that to figure out who was at fault, but it is a very, very tricky corner to get 2 cars around, particularly with the way the camber works in that corner. And this is that tricky corner I was telling you about. These drivers will make it look easy, but it's very easy to get it wrong, like the red card there, which must be Guy Leach going off. Sam Chapman gets it wrong and gets 2 wheels airborne as he comes back on the track, as we watch Chris Whitaker trying to defend from David Baz and Brett Barker. Brett Barker getting a nice 2-car slipstream, but nothing you can do with it because there's no braking zone into this corner. Instead, you just let off the throttle and let that off throttle oversteer get you around. Looks like Whitaker getting a little bit of a love tap from David Baz. Keep it to the bedroom, boys. And David Baz getting through on the inside, a little bit cheeky there. I think he'll get away with that. And Chris Whitaker getting on the dirt but keeping it pinned. You can do that on that dirt there because you are straightening up. As long as you are aware you're going to go on the dirt, you can just loosen off the steering a little bit and then bring it back onto the track. If you keep your steering lock on, that's when we're going to see cars going for a spin there. However, there are other corners where you will not be able to do that and get back on the track because the dirt slopes away from the track so quickly. As we cut to a replay of the incident between Chapman and Hammond, who is now in the lead of this race. Yeah, it looks like that's on Chapman, just getting it wrong, going for the move on the inside, understeering a little bit, hitting Hammond, which sent him into a spin. Thankfully, it's the correct way around with the instigator going for the spin, and the innocent party, Hammond in there, surviving. But it's a very, very easy mistake to make, really a small mistake, and a penalty that was not the right size for that small error. As we watch on board with Reece Gosner, he's right behind Hammond, going to get a lovely toe down here, but not much of a braking area for him to make a move. But if he can get to the inside, claim the inside line, he'll have the inside for this long corner, which means he can reduce the amount of distance he has to go around this corner, and that will almost certainly result in getting first place. And in fact, it does. You're absolutely right, Lobesy there. Mikey did well to avoid spinning. Must have foreseen the contact coming a little bit and just opened his steering and nudge, I imagine, just to counteract it before the impact actually came and just lessen the blow. Hammond getting a good slipstream now out of the final corner. This is important knowledge. See, they just crossed the start-finish line. Important to know whether you want to be in first place or second place when you come out of the final corner on that final lap, and that final lap's going to come up nice and early because we are 5 minutes into this 15-minute race. We are sprint racing here tonight, so there'll be 2 races with a reverse grid top 10, and currently it is Sam Stride who is in that coveted 10th position, although he is in a wheel-to-wheel battle with Gary Cousins, and crucially Sam Chapman, our pole sitter, sits in 12th place, not inside that top 10, so that will be his job for the remaining 10 minutes of this one. But it's got a hard time because there's going to be some pack racing as we watch Anthony Outshead going a bit deep into turn 3, but just recovers it and gets back in line as they crest the top of the hill. And that's Guy Leach getting it wrong again at that corner. Seems to be struggling with that corner. We've seen him off 2 or 3 laps now, and we're only 4 laps in, so that is the majority of the laps. So he'll want to solve that before he gets to the next race, because that will start costing him positions. But he's doing a really nice job on the dirt. So we'll have to remember in the interviews to ask him if he does any dirt racing, because he seems to be able to handle it pretty well there. And I can tell you that is a very difficult corner once you go off to get back onto the track with any sort of speed. As I'm watching Stuart Ellis trying to defend from Mikey Hammond. I suspect Hammond will try and go up the inside into turn 1. We're going to have a beautiful view thanks to our cameraman, producer and co-commentator David Sy, who hasn't managed to get a word in yet. Good evening to you, sir.
Hello, thank you. It's been a pretty lively race thus far. There's a couple of crashes here and there. A lot of off tracks, actually. People getting caught out. It's very, as you said, characteristic here of Willow Springs. There are no fences. I mean, there are fences, but you can see that they were very far away. It's very well known for the desert grass and the sand runoffs, which everybody has been using to their advantage thus far. Reece Gosling doing a really good job out in front here, and Mikey Hammond and Stuart Ellis having a pretty close battle just behind, and a decent 4-second gap to the front 3 and Chris Whitaker. And then from Whitaker onwards, it looks like we've got a train that goes all the way down from P4 to P12, I believe. So it's a very decent train there.
It is, and it's Sam Chapman at the back of that chain at the moment. The good news for him is he's got half the race left, and they are tightly bunched ahead of him. So if he can find a way to get through, he could go well inside the top 10 before the end of this race. However, the bad news for him is everybody ahead of him is getting slipstream, and that's going to take away one of the tools in his armory to try and get past those cars ahead, and they are all pretty handy drivers. So although Sam has proved himself to be one of the fastest drivers in a production car cup, whatever car we are racing, he is going to struggle to get back into the top 10 in the remaining time. We're now on board with Anthony Adshead, who's right in the middle of that pack. He's got Baz, Leach and Barker ahead of him. Let's see how they take the first corner. So a bit of a break there. Not a huge amount of break, just get down 1 gear and carry as much speed for that corner as you can. Again, this corner, not much of a break, more just using the throttle to get the car turned. A guy is trying to go around the outside of Chris Whitaker. That would be a brave move if he can do it, but he's going to hold on there, and if he stays on track, he will have the inside as they approach Budweiser balcony. And he hangs on there gamely.
Oh, but he touched the curb!
Controls it though.
Oh,
and it's Gosling. That's...
I think that's Adshead that spun at the back there. It was.
Yeah, absolutely right. It is Adshead going for a spin. I think he must have just got caught out by the moment, the huge moment the Guy Leach had. And there's more cars going gone. As Barker off, and who's that? Is that Chapman cutting across the dirt to avoid? Not Chapman, David Baz.
Oh, he slid. Oh, wow, okay.
He's already going wide.
Wow, he did not lift at all, David Baz absolutely pinned it coming out of there. So unfortunately, Brett Barker got a little sideways. David Baz got caught out with that. Looks like Guy Leach did as well. So that's worked out well for Chris Whitaker, but they've recovered almost instantly. Have a look, there's the car, the 5-car train. We've still got a fight well and truly at the front. Stuart Ellis is now leading the race with Mikey Hammond in P2, Reece Gosling in P3. Chris Whitaker seems to be having a little bit of reprieve. However, I'm really surprised at how quick they bunched up again. So you can see David Baz right there, Guy Leach on the main view of camera, Sam Stride, Chris Stark, Sam Chapman down in P9. And it looks like David Baz might try for another move again.
Yeah, what this has done is it's promoted Gary Cousins into pole position for the feature race if he can just hold on to 10th place. And the good news for him is John Baldwin is 5.5 seconds behind him. So all Gary Cousins needs to do is have a clean race for the last 5 minutes, and he will be in the best position for the start of our main 25-minute feature race. David Baz under a lot of pressure here from Guy Leach, who's got Sam Stride and Chris Stark behind him at the front, as much as you were with Ellis, Gosling and Hammond, the top 3, 6.5 seconds ahead of Chris Whitaker, who leads this group in that rather distinctive pink MX-5. David Baz, his closest contender, but Baz is looking in his rearview mirrors and not out the front of his car because he's got 2 cars lining up to get past him. Takes a relatively inside line there just to ensure no one goes for a sneaky dive. And now they'll all be trying to get on the throttle as early as possible and carry as much speed onto the straight, because it's a relatively long straight, the longest straight on the circuit, and your first corner is one of your better overtaking opportunities around here if you can get a run on the car ahead. As we come back to that lead battle, watching Hammond, who's just got past Ellis and is now looking to make it 2 cars in 2 corners, but he's not going to get around the outside from back there. Looks like he's carrying more speed through the corner though, but can he maintain his momentum? The stick behind Gosner cuts out late, potentially go for the inside, thinks better of it, going to go single file through here around the toughest part of the circuit. I see the camber changes. Camber helps you around here, but then you get to the top, and this corner you can't see the exit. You can see from the camera angle it's relatively blind, and the camber, which has been helping you, just fades away. So easy to go wide there, and if you go wide there, you're really struggling for this corner. So you have to be disciplined. Keep it nice and shallow. Keep a narrow line through there so you can open up that corner and get yourself a nice slingshot onto the straight. And that left-hander is it's a trickier corner than it looks. It's tighter than you would think in the car, but you can carry a fair bit of speed through it if you get your line right. Get your line wrong and all of a sudden you'll be braking and you'll be really upsetting the rear end of your car, and it can be quite easy to launch it into a spin. Just do it, Alice, taking a wide line through here. That should allow him to get onto the throttle earlier than Hammond ahead. Get a good run out. Yeah, you're getting the you can see that visibly on your screen, and he's going to be way ahead of him before they even get to the first corner, especially with the help of that slipstream from Gosner. Each car just taking their turn to lead this group, being second and third. I think each of these cars have been in first, second and third on multiple occasions, but that doesn't matter. All that matters is in 2 laps time when this race comes to an end.
So yeah, they'll strategically place themselves leader after leader until we get to the last race. The last lap of this race. We see the lap times are about 1:29, which means we've probably got one more after this. And as Trent is cleverly saying in the chat, it is a classic way to get a double on the last lap, which is exactly right. You know that the finish line, the start-finish line, is further down on the straight. You know that you can get a slingshot coming out of that final corner, and so what you want to do is you want to bait someone to try and get past you. It's one of those tunnel vision things that racers sometimes have, is they think if I'm leading the race, then I'm winning the race, and that is technically true, but sometimes, depending on the track, depending on the car configuration, it's not what you want to do. And I think you're going to get a textbook example of why sometimes you don't want to do that. So we see Stuart Ellis coming out to the front now. Look at the time there. It's 13 minutes and 20 seconds. We still have a lap to go. You should be able to see Barney on the side of the road, and he's not waving the flag, so it looks like we'll have 2 laps to go.
There he is. He's started waving.
There he is. Never mind. So he was late. He was just looking at his phone. So they cross the line. Stuart Ellis will be in the lead. Reece Gosner, they'll go side by side, but take a look at Mikey Hammond, because I guarantee you he's going to be looking to try and utilize this draft towards the next part of this lap. And I would not be surprised if he manages a slingshot pass and take the win in the final complex of corners. But time will tell. We'll stay on board and we'll have a look at how it pans out.
Yeah, and this is where that gentlemanly racing that we saw taking a turn to lead the race in the early stages is going to disappear, and it's going to be all holes barred and not be surprised. There's a bit of door rubbing before the end of this one as Mikey Hammond goes for a bold move around the outside. Stuart Ellis pins him to the inside of the corner, but Stuart Ellis just stays ahead, and if anything just squeezes Hammond a little bit on the exit, and Hammond has to file back in because this is a single file part of the racetrack. You do not go side by side through here. You do not go side by side through here. And yeah, Hammond backs out of it, thinking better of it, and he gets rewarded immediately as Ellis gets it wrong, goes wide, and Hammond cuts through the inside.
What a move! He actually used the camber of the corner to pull that off. The car got unsettled and he used that jump in the camber to actually shoot up on the inside. That is an excellent move from Mikey. The problem is that braking there from Ellis slowed both of them down, and it's allowed Gosner to get out in front. I don't know if he's got the time to be able to get that up. Gosner might have it in the bag.
Yeah, Gosner should have it in the bag from here. You're not going to get any time through this corner. It's not going to be a long enough straight. So it's going to be Gosner in first, but who's it going to be in second? Is it going to be Hammond? It's going to be Ellis. Ellis keeps it pinned through the dirt. It's not going to be enough. I don't think. Hammond is in second and Ellis is in third as they cross the line behind them. It will be Sam Stride up 12 spots from 16th to 4th. Gary Cousins behind him up 13 spots from 18th to 5th. Then it's Sam Chapman. Then Brandon Whitaker, Brett Barker, Phil King, and John Baldwin brings it home in 10th place for pole position in the feature race.
Just take another look at this one. So just watch how the car transitions here with the camber. Oh, nice slut. That's actually textbook. That's actually so good there from Mikey Hammond. He saw the Stewart Ellis was going wide, and then with the transition of the weight going into the left side, just sneaks out. That is one of the best overtakes you'll see.
Yeah, absolutely classic overtake there from Hammond, who has got a reputation for being one of the best attacking drivers in the GSRC, certainly in the lower powered vehicles that we often see him racing in. And not long to wait now before we get to our feature race. I'll just have a quick little warm-up before we get started. And just confirmation of the finishing order for you. Gosnell ahead of Hammond, ahead of Ellis, and those are your podium positions. Then behind them in 4th is Sam Stride, Gary Cousins in 5th, Chapman in 6th, Whitaker, Brandon Whitaker in 7th, Barker in 8th, Phil King in 9th, John Baldwin in 10th spot, which will be pole position for the feature race. Then David Baz in 11th, Chris Stark in 12th, Hooper in 13th, Chris Whitaker in 14th, Eduardo Zamora in 15th, Aiden Schultz in 16th, Kevin O'Neill in 17th, Anthony Outshead after running in the top 10 finishes in 18th, Lee Partridge in 19th, Pete Matson in 20th. And then the bottom 6 are all cars who I believe retired at some point in the race, and they include probably most notably Guy Leach, who was running strongly in the top 10 for much of the race.
Yeah, Trent just asking there in the chat what happened to Chris Whitaker. I'm not too sure. Chris Whitaker ended up down in 14th. So something happened there. He was leading that train that was just behind the leaders. But unfortunately, I can't go back to have a look as to what exactly it was that occurred. So obviously an incident for him of some description, which is why he finished that low on the board. Now, I don't know if anybody's actually going to take up the opportunity to go out on track. You usually get a 3-minute warm-up here between race sessions. Actually, it looks like John Merritt might go out on track, but otherwise they might just burn that 3 minutes in the pits. So while they're doing that, maybe we'll just have a quick look as to where these guys are headed. So obviously it is round 9 this week. We're at Willow Springs International, so the grand final for next week, it will be at Phillip Island. The only problem is I didn't write the car here in the schedule, but I believe it is the Toyota 86. I could be wrong. Let me just double check that for you. Yes, I do think it is the Toyota 86 for Phillip Island. Sorry, no, it's not Phillip Island. It's Lagos. So I've got the wrong. That must have been changed recently, so that's okay. But yeah, it looks like they'll be going into Lagos for their final.
Yeah, into Lagos in the A6s, which should be absolutely brilliant, and it is a sprint race, so that will be great fun. I think Interlagos it's just one of the best tracks in the world, isn't it?
It is. It has a, I don't know, I can't even put my finger on it, to be honest with you, but it's one of those tracks that just seem to produce racing across the board. I have a feeling it's to do with the middle part and the elevation changes, but I honestly couldn't put my finger on it. Obviously the atmosphere is fantastic. It's an absolutely it's a world famous track, and it's had some pretty steep history in the world of motorsport. So yeah, the GR86s around there should be an absolute banger of a race.
Yeah, it's one of those weird tracks that works no matter the speed of the car that you're racing around there, which you can't say for many tracks in the World Motorsport calendar. As we look at our starting grid for the feature race, we have John Baldwin on pole with Phil King alongside him. Then on the second row, it is Brett Barker and Brandon Whitaker. Then on the third is Sam Chapman and Gary Cousins. On the fourth row is Sam Stride and Stuart Ellis, with Mikey Hammond and Reese Gosnell behind them in 9th and 10th place respectively. Outside of the top 10, we have David Baz in 11th, Chris Stark in 12th, Jonathan Hooper in 13th, Chris Whitaker in 14th, Eduardo Zamora in 15th, Eden Schultz in 16th, then Kevin O'Neill and Anthony Adshead, Lee Partridge and Pete Matson at the back of the top 20. Outside of the top 20, we have Bobby Kimo, Gary Wellman, Guy Leach, Darren Mason, Wayne Visser and John Merritt right at the back of the field, and watching him come through should be a lot of fun as we have 5 lights and they are off except for third place, who's evidently forgotten which pedal was his accelerator, and thankfully Sam Chapman behind him just avoids him, is now up 2 spots into third place, so he'll be loving that start and thanking Brett Barker after the race, I suppose, with a drink. Then John Baldwin gets a beautiful start though, and he is under zero pressure at the moment for Phil King, who looks like he's going to have to defend from Sam Chapman, who's looking to go from 5th to 2nd in the space of 2 corners, and does indeed get the job done, with Mikey Hammond going around the outside of Gary Cousins. Apologies, not Mikey Hammond, it is David Baz and Gary Cousins going side by side, and this is the battle for the lead of the race. Sam Chapman's going to go around the outside of that corner this time, as he learned the inside is not the place to be. Makes it work and start putting a heap of pressure on John Baldwin, and it'll be a tough job for Baldwin to keep Chapman behind for any length of time, but the likes of Hammond, Gosner will be absolutely begging Baldwin to do whatever he can to hold up Chapman, because Chapman's pace last race was fantastic. His result wasn't, but he had the fastest lap of the race by a mile. As we're watching Mikey Hammond go wide on the dirt, tries to bring it back on and loses the car, and that's going to reset him to the back of the field, so he'll be joining the likes of John Merritt in going for a bit of a recovery race.
Yeah, saw him go off there through that section, and
Chapman's in the...
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, just saying, he kept his boot in it and just flew straight through the sand. And unfortunately, when he came back onto the track, it was a little bit too much traction from those rear tyres and ended up spinning. So yeah, unfortunate there for Mikey Hammond, will drop all the way to last place. For these guys out front, it's all on. Tim Chapman's actually put a little bit of a gap to the 4 cars behind.
Yeah, and Phil King has just lost about 4 positions in one corner as Barker and Stride entered alongside him, and then King and Ellis just followed through. So now it's Barker in 2nd place, Sam Stride in 3rd. Then Phil King actually recovers to 4th, so not quite losing many positions as I thought. But John Baldwin is the name I was thinking of. He is in 6th, Phil King is in 4th, and Stuart Ellis is in 5th. So Baldwin, after being on the pole for this race at the start of lap 2, is down in 6th. But this isn't bad for Baldwin. He'll be starting to race cars that are more in his pace range. He's going to have a better hope of keeping them behind. As we watch a few cars just tumbling down the order, so there's been... I assumed it was a glitch, but I think there might have been some sort of pile-up somewhere on the field, so we'll have to see if we can figure out what's happened there. It might just have been a glitch. However, it's Sam Chapman in the leads, with Barker in 2nd, Stride in 3rd, King in 4th, Ellis in 5th, and Baldwin in 6th. And you cannot see him, but yeah, he's got David Baz right up his rear end, and David Baz looking to the inside at the start of the final couple of corners on a track which really they feel like one from within the car. But in MX5 you really can split it in 2, because the first corner you just hug the inside and then come out wide to give yourself a nice line to get through the final corner onto the straight and carry as much speed as you can. But John Baldwin going wide for the first part, and now has opened the door on his inside and lap 1, and he's done it again in lap 2. I was thinking it's a good spot to let cars that he believes are faster through, so that he can just settle into a comfortable position. As David Baz is the latest car to get ahead. You can hear the engines whining for that corner. It's actually quite uphill, so you can keep the accelerator down and you don't really gain much speed as you go through it. So Ellis just touching the curb on the inside, which is a dangerous move, because you touch it a bit too much, you can really launch the front left wheel, and that can lead you to just over rotating and going for a spin there. But Stuart Ellis doing it perfectly and getting a nice run through there. That'll set him up well to have a run at Phil King into the final corner as he makes use of the slipstream. He'll be hoping that Phil King darts left here so that he can dart down the inside. No, Phil King moves to the inside and just covers that move off, and now Stuart Ellis has got a decision to make. Does he go around the outside, or does he just wait behind? He has a little bit of a look around the outside, but nothing happening there, not enough of an overspeed. So instead it'll try and get wide as he approaches the final corner, carrying more speed than Phil King for here. Certainly attacks the edge of the racetrack a lot more than Phil King and looks to have got a better run. Moves to the inside and will be fully alongside by the time they break for corner 1, and will be fully ahead by the time they get out of corner 1. Or can he make it 2? No, slots in behind Sam Stride in 4th place with the fastest lap of the race of a 1:28.4, 7/10 quicker than sorry, half a second quicker than Chapman was able to pull from the lead of the race, and he is not pulling away at all. He's got Brett Barker getting a good whiff of his exhaust fumes right now.
Yeah, just to,
and then go ahead.
Just to touch on that that move there from Stuart Ellis. So you saw that Phil King just pulled out a little bit to the left, and Stuart Ellis responded in kind. And obviously, what he's done there is just to avoid any potential collision. But he was well within his right to actually just stay there, and it would have been on Phil King to have to maintain that position. And what it would have been was, he didn't even try to get back on track. He's going to take the slide down for sure. That's an interesting line there from Stuart. But yeah, he was well within his right to just hold that line. And what they would have essentially done is boxed Phil King in, and he would have lost the position regardless. But instead, did the gentlemanly thing, gave each other plenty of room to go, and then Phil King just dropped back anyway. But unfortunately, because Stuart Ellis decided to take the Indiana Jones route through that section, it all gone straight back through. And David Baz is trying to get the position on Stuart, but Stuart's not letting him have it that easy. He is ahead slightly. Yep, there we go. So 6 minutes down of 25. Steve Chapman still on the lead of this race, and it is a very close one at that. 1st to 7th, all within a second.
Yeah, it's an interesting decision there from Baz to cut back in ahead of Stuart Ellis. I would have been tempted to keep that slightly more inside line and just try and put Ellis off and making another move in the first corner. Did work out for Baz. Ellis decided not to make a move after having a look at it. But I do wonder if that was it was proven to be the right decision. And it was a good point you made about that he could have held him to the inside there. It's one of those decisions you make based on knowing the guy that you're racing. If you know they're a confident racer and someone that can handle that kind of move, it's the kind of move you will pull off. But if someone you're a little unsure about, or someone that you know you don't need to put that move on to get it done, you generally wouldn't, because like you said, it does raise the danger profile of the move, and it's something that can really put off people that aren't used to that maneuver. Let's watch Barker getting a beautiful run through the penultimate corner, but can he mirror that run in the final corner? Looks like he's drifting a bit wide there. He's going to have to get off the throttle to bring it back in towards the apex. Missed the apex a little bit, but keeps it on track, unlike Sam Chapman. But Chapman keeps it pinned and doesn't lose much momentum as he gets to the back straight. Barker will get a toe here, and you can just see the power of that toe, but it's not going to be enough to launch a move up the inside. Neither potentially would he want to, as we're only 8 minutes into a 25-minute race, and they will need to make a fuel stop before the end of this one. You can see Chapman using that dirt to give himself a bit of rotation through that corner and trying to carry a little bit more speed. Everyone going single file as they approach Budweiser balcony. Oh, that's dangerous. Dangerous there from Stuart Ellis, flirting with the edge of that dirt, but keeps it on the track. So let's just wrap up where the race is while it's a little bit quiet. This is the lead group that you're watching on screen. It starts with Stuart Ellis. He's got Barker behind him, then Stride, then Baz, then Ellis, then King and John Baldwin at the back of that group, and that is the top 7 in this race. Then in 8th place is John Merritt, who has come from the back, 26th position, up 18 spots into 8th, and only 5.6 seconds behind this lead battle. So don't rule him out of getting involved in this before the end of the race. Then he leads a pack off Guy Leach, Aiden Schultz, Eduardo Zamora and Jonathan Huber, which takes us down to 12th. And a shout out to Guy Leach because he's up 14 spots from 23rd to 9th, and make that 8th as he gets ahead of Merritt. Then the third group is led by Gary Wildman. He's in 13th, but he's got Mikey Hammond, Wayne Vezzer, Gary Cousins and Chris Stark behind him. And then there's a few stragglers from 18th down. This is where the interesting stuff has happened. This is the main battle, the battle for the top 7 spots in this race. Chapman's still at the lead of it. Let's just familiarise yourself with the liveries now. So Chapman is in the white and blue livery, predominantly white. David Baz is on screen right now in his grey and blue livery. Brett Bark is in the purple and white car with the S on the bonnet, so just remember S for B. And then Sam Stride is in the car with the green wheels, and he's got Phil King behind him in the car that is black with light blue accents.
No, that would be Stuart Ellis. Stuart Ellis is the...
Yes, you're correct, actually. Apologies. I've added a car in there.
Yeah, Phil King has he's running the Rothmans.
Yeah.
Rothmans Mazda. And then, yeah, John Baldwin is in the gold and black, the login systems. And again, it's really weird because there are moves happening here at the front, but it does seem very processional. Sam Chapman has managed to hold on for a couple of laps now. Brett Barker's just sitting there, and I think he realizes he really doesn't have to do more of the work. He can just let Chapman do all the hard work out in front, and then only when we start to wind down towards the final laps of the race is when he'll probably make his attack. We've still got more than half the race to go, just over half the race to go. We're in the 11-minute mark now, and you can see fuel save. Yeah, possibly a fuel save. It obviously counts, and especially in the MX-5, so you can fuel save quite a significant amount too, if you know what you're doing. So I always find it interesting that these guys dip their right side, their right tyres into the dirt. You would think that that wouldn't be the play because there's such a change, there's such a drastic weight transfer when you dip your tyres like that. Because when they kick back up onto the curb, it's pretty severe. But yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting one there. They all do it. It all seems to work. So play on. But as we come up to this final turn now, to start lap 9, see Brett Barker, Stuart Ellis takes a bit of an adventure there. David Bass will most likely try and capitalise on this. You'll see him probably shoot out to the left in a moment. Or he'll go for the bump draft. No, he decided to stay in line. Okay, interesting. So, and you'll notice that Brett Barker will do exactly the same thing. He will not try for an overtake anywhere soon. He will most likely wait until we hit the 20-minute mark and get down to those last 2 laps or so before we see a significant attempt at an overtake.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see that whilst you said, like, there have been a few moves, it has settled down quite a lot. And the thing is, we know that the moves don't mean that much because overtaking is quite easily. And when you look at the moves, often the car ahead is quite amenable to the move and not fighting it too hard because they know that they're going to have an opportunity to come back pretty quickly. That will change before we get to the end of this race, and I think the fuel saving suggestion is a good one because just looking at the lap times, the best lap from Sam Chapman is a 1:28.9, which is not fast. For reference to it, Alice has done a 1:28.4, and last race Chapman did a 1:28 dead. I do think I wasn't off track in there, to be fair, but certainly low 1:28s are possible around here. And even quite far back, Eduardo Mikey Hammond's done a 1:28.6, and he's obviously been battling for the pack. Phil King's done a 1:28.5. So I do think there is more pace in some of these cars, and they might be fuel saving, but we'll get our answer before too long because they will need to pit in the next 2, 3, 4 laps. Because Brett Barker moves to the other rates.
So he proved me wrong, so he obviously thought that there was a potential there. It's unfortunate for David Baz, who had to lift off in order not to go into the back Stuart Ellis there. Otherwise, he would have had a really, really good run on all 3 of them. Instead, it looks like he's going to try and go inside, try and just grab 3rd place here from David Baz. He'll most likely do it if he can hold on to the momentum through the corner. It seems to be working well. He's on the offside for the next turn, which could spell disaster if they get too close. But no, they seem to do it. Wow, yeah, that's a great transition there. So David Baz now clear into P3, and Sam Chapman still managed to hold on to the front. So Brett Barker holds the lead for about 0.4 of a second, and Sam Chapman takes... what was that?
Huge swapper on. Got onto the brakes a little bit too heavily. unloaded the rear wheels, and you can just see the twitch. It looked like he'd saved it, but it just shot out at him at the last possible moment. Have a look at this. You can see it relatively early in the corner that he's got the back end way too light. There, looks like he's caught it, save. And then yeah.
Oh, it's a 10 points right there, Dave. Why would you miss it? Come on, man. Hopefully it was unoccupied. And yeah, he'll come into the pits too.
Yeah, it wasn't ideal for him. It put him just outside the slipstream at 2.1 seconds behind, although still convincingly ahead of Merritt. So he's probably pitting now just to reset himself a little bit. Probably calm his heart rate down, maybe get a fresh pair of trousers, and get back out into this race with a full tank of fuel ready to go again, and just reset for the second half, because he's certainly well in this battle for the top 5 positions and indeed the victory, which Sam Chapman has been in that position, however, for the vast majority of the race, basically since corner 2, when he started attacking what was... Who was in the lead of the race? It was John Baldwin in the lead of the race at that point, and then never looked back since then, bar a few odd corners where the likes of Barker have been able to get alongside and just eke out a headlight or two in front of him. Interestingly, John Merritt not really able to close in on this group. The gap is 8.2 seconds, but obviously we did just see the back of the group disappear into the pits, so not able to run at the pace of these guys, or at least not at a better pace than these guys. I think we can rule John Merritt out of a top 5 position unless he is saving a heap of fuel or has something special in the tank for the end of this race. As Sam Chapman flirts with disaster, but thankfully the flirting has worked for him, and they're going to have another date a little bit later on in the race.
Yeah, I think you can extend really far, and iRacing won't penalise you for it. The only thing you have to really keep in mind is, luckily, the majority of cars will drive relatively straight on dirt, but it does slow you down. So although it would most likely be less of a penalty than if you were to correct yourself and lift to stay on the black stuff, the car behind you, if they have managed to make the arc, then they're definitely going to be faster than you down the straight. So although it might seem like it's a get out of jail free card, it's really not. But it is, of course, the better alternative than having to lift, and then definitely you lose the position behind you, because the car behind you is going to have that much more speed. So Sam Chapman's doing exactly what any race car driver would do in that situation, which is when in doubt, flat out.
Yes, but it's one of those things you only do if you've practiced it a little bit in before the race, so you know you can get away with it. If you hadn't done it before, you wouldn't keep it flat.
You would think so, but yeah. I know many examples, especially in this club, of people that would definitely be like, yeah, we'll just pin it, and if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, well, yeah, you can see he doesn't even try to like stay on the track. He keeps the widest arc possible in order to keep the momentum of the car, and I can't see if he's getting iRacing off tracks. I'd imagine he'd get one here or there, but if he's not, then yeah, by all means, like, if there's a piece of track to be raced on, a driver will race on it.
They certainly will. And he's one of the biggest proponent of dipping his right tyres into the dirt around this corner as well. There he goes, just dipping them in, just to get him a little bit of rotation late in the corner as the corner tightens up. And you can get away with that because those tyres aren't loaded.
Yep.
So obviously all the pressure is on the left-hand tyres, or the weight's over there. Not much weight on the right-hand tyres. And what it just does is it just increases the rate of rotation of the left-hand tyres compared to the right-hand tyres just a bit, which results in rotation in the car. And yeah, it does work around that corner. You just got to be careful of it, because if you do it a bit too much, or like you said before, if you get the timing of it wrong and you then hop over a curve as you come back off the dirt, that's when you really start to struggle. You have to be really deliberate with where you're going to do it. It can't be because you're pushing so much that it's accidental, if that makes sense. I was watching Brett Barker just stay nice and close to Chapman. He'll be saving a lot of fuel as he does this for lap after lap after lap, as will Stuart Ellis in third. So we'll be interested to see how their pit times compare. Of course, no one will be able to tell when Sam Chapman's going into the pits, because he'll be going wide anyway, and he goes into the pits there, and Stuart Ellis almost goes for a cheeky overtake. on the inside, as I think Chapman almost lost the car there, trying to suddenly bring the car back left to go into pit lane after he originally looked to straighten up to go down the straight. And Ellis and Merritt all in the pits, so it's Barker, Stride, King, and Guy Leach, the top drivers that are continuing on. A few of those drivers further down in the pack have already pitted, such as Gary Cousins, Darren Mason, and Wayne Visser, some of the later drivers to pit. John Baldwin's pitting. He pitted lap 9. A few of those behind him as well. And some have retired. Aidan Schultz, Bobby Kuo, Lee Partridge, David Baz, and Mike Hammond all have certainly retired, and Brendan Whitaker never took the start of the race, as he, I assume, prepares for another race later on, potentially the GT4 Championship.
So Sam Chapman took 11.5 seconds in the pit box with a total pit lane transit time of 40.5. Now, if we have a look at the lead interval here, so Brett Barker is, give or take, 30-something seconds. 30... No, hold on a minute. 8, 5... Actually, I'm trying to do math in my head when I can just do this, I believe. There we go. 34.9 seconds down the road. So we'll see if Sam Chapman... So based on that pit lane transit time, it does look like Sam Chapman should catch Brett Barker on pit exit. But we'll have a look as to what
for him that he's behind Stuart Ellis. So Stuart Ellis will be in the lead of the race.
That's true, but remember, the draft is too powerful, so Sam will be able to get past Stuart Ellis with no issue. The question will be, how long does Brett Barker take in the pit time? So we saw 11.5 from Sam Chapman, and Brett Barker 10.63. Wow, okay, so this might be on. Hold on, have a look to the left side of your screen. Sam Chapman's going to go for the bump draft. Oh, it's going to be an absolute race onto the first corner. Wow, and he got it done. Just in front. That was well done. That was a very smart move there from Chapman. He could have gone for the overtake, but he knew that the bump draft would be more effective for both himself and for Ellis. So he bumps him right up towards that first turn. And now Brett Barker's going to have to deal with losing a bit of temperature in those tyres due to that pit stop. You can see Sam Chapman is already attacking. He's going to go on the outside here and cleans him, actually. Just absolutely cleans Stuart Ellis there. So Sam Chapman back into the lead of this race.
Yeah, as Stuart Ellis very accommodating there. Sam Chapman didn't want to get involved in a scrap, just settles into second place, and now under a lot of pressure from Brett Barker. And I mean, Chapman visibly opening up the lead through that complex, just absolutely nailed it with the overtake. And Stuart Ellis doing him a favour, I think, holding up Brett Barker just a little bit through there, but they will close in now that they've got the slipstream to help them do so. Importantly, this group has absolutely dropped Phil King. He's 7 seconds behind this group now, which shows that he was using more fuel to stay with, a little bit more fuel to stay with these guys. Pit time only 11.1, so perhaps also had a little bit of moment on the entry, and that's very, very wide from Stuart Ellis. Manages to get it back on track, but I dare say that was not optimal for him. And you can see Brett Barker definitely going to make a move into turn 1. Surely, basically scratching the rear bumper of Stuart Ellis down the straight. No, it just sits behind him. And now the 4 cars all relatively equidistant from each other, and John Merritt is right on the backside of Phil King to try and get into the top 5 of this race. Behind him is Guy Leach, Eduardo Zamora, and Gary Cousins. So that second battle pack really has broken up. There's definitely been a few collisions in there that we haven't seen because there's huge gaps, basically from 9th place down. In fact, even 8th place is 9 seconds behind Guy Leach in 8th place is 9 seconds behind Guy Leach in 7th. And then Kevin O'Neill is in 10th, and he's 27 seconds behind Gary Cousins. So some big gaps have opened up, and that second and third battle pack have just absolutely dissipated, I assume, due to collisions.
So I'm not sure. We hit 24 minutes now. It's less than a minute to the start-finish line, so I'm not sure if we're on the last lap or if we still have one to go next time by. We'll keep an eye here on Sam Chapman as they go down the main straight, but you can see up there we've still got a decent chunk of time as they come here. So Sam probably would have been better off trying to slow this pack down to see if he could force that last lap, but I'm going to assume that Barney will be waving the white flag now Yep, there it is
Yep,
on
there it
our
is.
screen. That's the Barney cam, and we can see that Stuart Ellis is looking to go side by side. Brett Barker's also going to try and have a run up. He's going to try and get him as well. So Sam's going to have to go on the outside. He's going to have to be careful because the tyres will dip into the dirt. And wow, he went straight across Brett Barker's nose. Luckily, there was no contact. So Stuart Ellis is now in the lead of this race. Sam Chapman in P2, Brett Barker in P3. And it seems as though all three of them have left Sam Stride a little bit. 0.7 down the road. It doesn't look like he can fight with these guys as it stands. Sam Chapman's going to look to the inside. Doesn't have the grip though, so he will stay in line, knowing full well that he's got a decent run to the line as long as he can stick with him on that final turn. Brett Parker's also not going anywhere in a hurry, so he's going to make sure he sticks right to the back of that bumper of Sam Chapman, otherwise he will lose out. It will only be a race of 2 instead of a race for 3. And they're coming up to back markers. I don't think it'll matter. I don't think they'll catch them in time. But here we go. Only a couple of corners left. We'll see if Stuart Ellis can hold on or if Sam Chapman will have played him like a fiddle and allowed him to take that position. Whoa, he's going already.
The outside is not the place to be on that corner. Because he's going to be on the outside for the final corner. I don't think that's where you want to be unless he can pull a full car's width ahead before the final corner. He will back himself to carry more speed through here, as he often does, getting onto that dirt. But will it be enough momentum? Absolutely side by side.
It's
I don't know how to
Ellis.
call it.
It's Ellis.
It's Ellis.
Fantastic. So Ellis managed to hold on, and that was because Sam Chapman went a little too wide. He put his tyres into that dirt, and that slowed him down. He thought maybe he could hold on to the momentum on the outside, but it was a very smart move there from Ellis, because the worst thing that Ellis could have done, which he didn't do, is to stay real tight on the inside, because that would have let off more speed than Sam Chapman would have lost going into the dirt. But instead, Stuart Ellis followed him around, elongated exit onto that left side, and made sure to keep up with the momentum, knowing that he would stay on the track and keep the traction, and Sam Chapman would be the one in the dirt. So that was a very smart play there from Ellis. And Brett Barker almost managed to sneak his nose in there as well. He was 0.1 behind Sam Chapman when we crossed the line. But a good race from everyone involved, but it was Stuart Ellis that'll take the top honors.
Yeah, and then John Merritt scoring a massive victory there as well, up 21 places, biggest move of the night, into 5th place from the back of the grid. Fantastic race from him, and Sam Stride fills in the gap between him and the top 3, only 4 tenths per second behind Brett Barker in the end. Sam Stride bringing himself back into the hunt, but not enough time for him to fully close the gap. Perhaps need another lap or 2 of them battling ahead. Still got cars finishing out on track. That was Anthony Adshead and John Baldwin you saw crossing the line for 11th and 12th spot, which just shows you how spaced out the race became in the end, with a huge gap from 9th to 10th of almost 30 seconds. And just to confirm, these are the final standings from the race. Stuart Ellis takes the victory by 0.021 of a second over Sam Chapman, who led most of the race. Then it was Brett Barker in 3rd place, not quite able to impose himself on the 2 ahead right at the end. Then Sam Stride in 4th, John Merritt, the biggest mover, up into 5th place. Then it's Phil King in 6th, Guy Leach in 7th, Eduardo Zamora in 8th, Gary Cousins in 9th, and that really is the end of those that had a cleanish race, with Kevin O'Neill 55 seconds behind them in 10th place. Then John Baldwin a minute 5 behind, and Anthony Adshead in 12th, Pete Batson in 13th, Gary Allman in 14th, Wayne Visser in 15th, Darren Mason in 16th, and then Whitaker, Gosnar, Hooper, and Stark all retirements. Back to start the race, just wait for the drivers to just get out of the rigs and mosey on down to the broadcast room so we can have a quick chat with them before we move on over to our rather delicious accompaniment to our wine in the GT4 live from Zandvoort. And that is sprint racing again, which should be fantastic around that circuit. And you'll see it, if you've only ever seen it in the F1 calendar, you're about to see it in a very different light, with cars that are actually the correct size to go racing around that circuit. And it should produce some brilliant action for us tonight.
the drivers are all started to move on.
Well, a lot of them do compete in the GT4, and Zandvoort is difficult. It is a difficult track. So I would not be surprised if more than one of them has launched straight into the GT4 server.
That was the catch there from Mikey Hammond. Unfortunately, just got a little bit too much grip when he came back onto the circuit. Ended up spinning round and really didn't push back up towards the back end of the race. Ended up finishing 21st. But yeah, had a stellar first race and a really poor second. He just bunched up his cars were coming out to the end of lap 1. And I mean, apart from that issue with that incident there with Monkey Hammond, everyone else was behaved pretty well. You can see them almost going 3 wide there into the first turn. And then after that, it sort of became very processional. We saw the fuel saving there from Sam Chapman and others at the front end. And once those pit stops resolved, it was Stuart Ellis in front. Sam Chapman in there in P2. And then, Stuart Ellis just managed to hold on, take the win right at the end. And again, you would. I know Sam would have been kicking himself when he went out that outside, because he knew exactly what he thought. If he could go around the outside and Stuart Ellis would stay nice and tight, then he would have had the run. But Stuart did the smart thing, and then you can see, some contact there between Reece Gosler and Chris Whitaker. Oh, is that tyre busted? That tyre was busted. That tyre is... Yep, that suspension is baroque. I can see a couple of people jumping in.
Yeah, you look lonely in here.
A little bit.
Look very lonely.
Just decided to keep us waiting, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we had to have a whinge first,
I had to
have a team chat, and then you come back in.
Oh,
I had
actually,
to have a whinge at my teammate for taking me out in the second race.
Stan, I'll ask you real quick. The last corner, what was your plan? Because I have a theory about what you were planning.
Well, yeah, what was my plan here? That's a good question. I could have a look. It was pretty much like the last lap. I was like, okay, if he gets ahead of me here, that's fine. Going with like on that main straight, as long as I stay in second. He sort of closed off the inside, so I figured, all right, we'll do outside. And then it just sort of came down to, like, I did actually clear it, but I didn't come across in time to, and he stuck another nose in, which I guess technically I probably could have cut off, but, it's close racing. You don't really want to just, like, cut the nose off someone, right? And, like, Stuart and I have had some really good racing, for the last 2 seasons of this sort of thing, so, you don't want to do that. So you sort of try and go in as tight as possible, and get the best exit possible as well. Like, I mean, difficult to say. I'm just having a look at it now. Like, does Stuart stay on the track if I don't go wide? I don't know. Like, it's probably right there on that. But yeah, it was a bit of luck of the draw there. You get a decent bounce, you get a decent run out of that. We'll do all right. So, no, congrats to him. He did well. After, he did bad luck to him.
Oh, that's fair. When I saw you setting it up on the previous lap, and then I saw you go out to the left-hand side, knowing that you were going to take the outside line, my first thought was that you were going to try and hold him nice and tight into that apex, knowing that essentially you could have just blocked him the entire way around, because then all he would have been able to do is very slightly push you out, and then that would have slowed him down because he would have been taking a tighter line. But then you just decided to take the line that you always took, which is, I'm going to put a significant part of my car onto the dirt because it is the faster line. And then I saw that Stuart took that opportunity to push you out that way, which meant that he would have all 4 tyres on the tarmac and you wouldn't. And so I thought that was I don't know if that's what he meant to do, but if it was a very smart move.
Oh, I think he's a good driver, so I suspect he probably did. Probably, looking back, I probably could have locked him in a bit more, but we also had Brett charging behind us too, so you wouldn't want to lose too much speed through that final corner.
Right, yeah.
If we lost the bunch there, you know, it would make it quite difficult. So yeah, I don't. To be honest, I hadn't really game planned it all that much. It was just I was just sort of in monkey mode after first race. It's just like be ahead of car behind, and yeah. So, but that doesn't. You know, I've probably got to think more draft conscious and more strategy conscious in that sort of situation.
That's fair enough. But it was a good race. It was a good race done by you, mate, and you should be proud. And yeah, that's all from me. I'll pass it on to you, Lee.
You know, very good race. Better than the first race. So let's just talk about that first race a little bit. What went wrong in
what didn't go wrong? Well, I mean, it didn't help me bungling that second sector was just the death of me. That sort of uphill bit. You know, I went wide enough to begin with, but part of it was like I was rebuilding my wheel about half of practice, so I was a bit rattled by that because it's been doing a disconnecting thing in mid-race. It's good, but it sort of disconnected mid-practice, and I went, yeah, no, that's not going to fly in a race. That's not going to be too handy. So I was doing that. And trying to get everything set back up. So I think there's a bit of that in it. I just wasn't super comfortable going into that entry because you've really got to try and get that back end out a little bit, but it's such a tricky place. And then, you know, I was trying to sort of make overtakes or be overtaken throughout there. And I think, yeah, one way or the other, I got sort of taken out 2 or 3 times through that race. And you're looking at them like varying degrees of whether or not it's someone's fault or not, but just with the way that corner works and the fact that there was a little bit of net code in each of them, pretty much, like, you know, 20-30 centimetres worth. You know, I didn't end up sort of calling it in because it was probably, you know, 50-50 or relatively close to 50-50. It's just not a corner that's great for overtaking on safely, I guess, and especially, I guess, in cars like this that do have a bit of bounce to them. They're not entirely predictable as to where they're going to be as they go around that corner. So, yeah, that was sort of the issue there. I was, you know, looking at it, was probably lucky to end up where I did, given other carnage and that sort of thing, and not to have too much damage. But yeah, so, and then, yeah, second race, it was just all head down, you know, hope you can stay ahead, but nah, still happy with that suck.
Yeah, thanks for that fairly detailed breakdown of what happened there. And my final question for you before we move on to what you said was, were you surprised to see so many cars going wide at the exit of corner 7, which is that tricky downhill left-hander, and just keeping it barely pinned and coming back onto the track fairly far down, but almost in the same position? Because that surprised me. Did you realise that would be a possibility in practice?
No. So what you're saying is they've gone completely off track and they've cut that next corner, have they? Or
so if we just keep following through here, so you come up the hill, so you got this nice left-hander. You come round with this sort of double right-hander, and this left-hander. Yeah. At the bottom of this hill here, what we saw cars doing is going quite wide and getting fully onto the dirt on the outside, but then they were able to rejoin before this right-hander even sometimes, and in the same position, which really surprised me.
Yeah, it's and I think I did that a couple of times too. It can be done. I mean, it's part of why, and despite, you know, often having incidents and that sort of thing, I love Willow Springs as a track, and I think part of it comes from that dirt and sand, in that, you know, within reason, it's almost a little bit part of the track. You can sort of dip a wheel here and there and it not kill you. You lose a little bit of pace, but you don't lose too much pace. So you've got that sort of ability to have it saved, which, given there's no sort of braking markers and it's the wheel sort of you know, trapped in the car, pushed to the grip limit for the circuit. Yeah, that sort of works for it. So it doesn't surprise me. I mean, it's a similar thing in that final corner as well. You can usually, you know, dip a wheel, or even, you know, if you really screw it up, you go all the way off. And I think I did that, you know, once or twice, and you lose a few tenths, but it's not the end of the world. You can usually rejoin. So yeah, it doesn't entirely surprise me, but you do just have to be careful with it, you know, and as you rejoin. But it's such a wide track too that usually other cars can, you know, see what's happening ahead, and I've got enough room just to duck a little bit to one side to make sure that I don't get caught up. There you go, dipping the wheel.
All right, well, thank you very much for your words, and thank you very much for running the Production Car series. It's been a lot of fun to watch, and good luck for the finale at Interlagos next week.
Yeah, thank you. I might have made a rod for my own back in the championship fight, but that's it'll be a big finale next week. And well, we know what the weather at Interlagos is usually like. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a little bit of it.
Well, that's a tantalising carrot to dangle in front of us before you go. Go enjoy the rest of your night, buddy.
Cheers.
While watching the GT4s, of course, or racing. Either one. Either one is acceptable here. But we'll move on now to Wayne Visser. Wayne, how are you going, buddy?
Well, I'm going well, mate. Doing well.
Good. Up 10 spots in the feature race. You must be pretty happy with that.
I was up a few more until my old partner, Starkey, sort of pushed me off track, and I was up to 8th spot, so I went from 25th to 8th, and I was enjoying it, and yeah, had a bit of a run with Starkey. He missed his brake marker and pushed me wide, but yeah, what do you do? It's all fun and games. I wasn't in the championship here. I'm just coming to have a bit of fun
And for those
help out Sam. But yeah, all fun and games. We enjoy ourselves.
Yeah, how did you find this car and track combination?
I love the track. The car's great on this track. I was getting faster and faster as we were going, so I was getting faster and faster laps in, so yeah, I was enjoying it. Can't get where Sam is. That's just, yeah, 28s, and I can't do that fast. But yeah, we just enjoy it. Me and Starkey were out there just with each other, trying to keep Gary behind us, but yeah, that didn't help when Starkey missed his brake mark, took me out, and Gary's gone all driving past. So yeah, fun and games though. But congratulations to Sam and the boys up there up the front. They're doing real well.
Yeah, they are doing very well. Yeah, lots of since but you got fast track drivers at the moment. Leaving the likes on the British car. Is that your favourite sort of type of racing series as a group?
With a lot of us doing the V8s. So I'm into me, Starkey, the three, the two Super 2 drivers. We're all I'm enjoying actually at the moment. I'm in Super 3 at the moment. Running, I think, 5th in the championship, which is quite surprising. So,
pretty good.
I'm enjoying myself. So yeah, I went from 6th the other day, back up to 5th. So got one more track to try and conquer. Hopefully I can stay in the top 5. It'll be a bit of a highest ever finish in any of the series so far, I'd say.
Fingers crossed for you there. That'd be absolutely fantastic. Do you feel like you are improving as a driver as you get more racing experience under your belt?
Yeah, you do. I'm slowly getting better. I'm not the best out there. I'm getting too old. The reflexes aren't quite as good as they used to be. But yeah, I just enjoy it. If I hit someone or take someone out, I'd sort of, if we have an accident, I'd sort of try and readdress it straight away. Because you don't really want to be that person that takes people out all the time. So
no, you don't.
Yeah, just try and set up straight away.
Yeah, that's often why sometimes I'll skip a week in the sim formulas if I feel like I haven't mastered the track enough to be confident of not taking people out. Then I generally won't race because it's the worst thing to do.
Well, that's why tonight I started from. I didn't even qualify. I just started from the back of the grid. But I don't want to wreck someone else's race, and so I just thought I'd start there. And my first for the first race, I got one of the new blokes come out back on track, and I was coming around. He decided to come flying back on, and took me out and smashed me car. But that was just part of racing when you're at the back of the pack.
Yeah, it's the risk you know you take. You put yourself at the back to make sure you don't take anyone out, knowing that you are also putting yourself in the firing line.
Yeah, but he wasn't doing it on intentionally. He wouldn't have known I was there. He just thought I'd come back on the track, and all of a sudden there's someone there. So that's right. You know, you don't get upset by it. You just move on and go to the next race.
Yeah, no, you can. Yeah, I'm trying to think what the saying is. But there's a saying where it's okay to have like that initial flash of annoyance or anger, but then you don't follow it up with more. You just let it go. You don't.
Well, you don't. Everyone jumps up and down. Everyone goes off as soon as something happens, but they go back to the replay and they see what happens, and it's like, oh, it wasn't me, it wasn't them. Oh, because you blame everyone else before you blame yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And it's natural. Whenever anything goes wrong, it's natural to have a negative reaction. That's just being human.
Yeah.
That means you care. If you don't have a negative reaction, you probably also don't have a positive reaction when you're racing, and then you're not going to do it. But then you just, you then immediately think, no, these things happen. It's racing.
Yeah, that's right. There's a lot of blokes. There's a lot of people that don't do it like that. They get upset, and then when they go back to it, that was me. Just hold it in till the finish race. Kick your replays out, and then go from there. Or call it in through the race control. Let them sort it out. At
the end of the game.
That's what they're there for.
Exactly, and then at the end of the day, you can't have a good story without an obstacle to overcome.
Yeah, exactly right.
There you go. What are we going to see you in before the end of the week? Are we going to see you back out in the GSRC, or are you out in Super 2s next week?
Hopefully the Super Formulas tomorrow night. I'll crew chief for the boys tomorrow in the Ds. They can race them, and I'll come into hopefully go on the Super Formulas. Yeah, and get a couple ups in. I like the Super Formulas. That'd be
a really good race as well. It's Road America, isn't it?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah,
it's always fun that track, and that car combo will be nice.
Yeah, it will be plenty of slipstream, plenty of speed to take a couple of corners.
Yep. It's going to be on the main straight, back straight.
Yeah, go around the carousel.
Yeah, and the car. Yeah, it's going to be that's going to be a fun. Sit back and hopefully you move through the pack from everyone else.
Imagine if we got a bit of rain. That'd be amazing. The kink in the rain.
Oh, mate. Even coming onto the main straight, you come down and you go to the bottom of the hill and come back up. So there's a few water spots there. So
yeah. Remember when we had the rain at Hungaroring earlier in the season? That was fantastic.
Oh. It's so hard to drive. You get off, you see minutes. You might be freezing cold outside, but Jesus, you come off and you're sweating.
Yeah.
Just had a workout and a half. It's like,
It's so hard as well, because you've got the pressure of like everyone around you. You're trying to keep pace or catch the guys ahead, but then also that like, particularly with Super Formula, because they're pretty forgiving on the throttle normally. You can go full throttle really, really early, but in the rain, you have to be so careful on the throttle all of a sudden.
Yeah, well, I got the Huizenvelds pedals, and I really put a big curve in the throttle, so it's not. I don't give it too much, because I know I will. And if you've ever watched the Super Formulas, not the Super Formula Light, but the Super Formulas, we race them, and the bloke were doing standing starts, and they took off, and the first couple of races, everyone was just going left or right at the start, take off, and they just wheel spin.
Yeah.
And they just pull out straight in front of someone, take out half the field, and we all had to learn how to drive them and how to start them. So hey.
Yeah, they are wonderful vehicles. Thankfully, the Super Formula Light's much easier to start. They are.
Yes, that's the good thing.
Yeah, full throttle, drop the clutch.
Yeah, and that's why everyone's loving it. That's why everyone's loving it so much more.
Yeah.
But
some people haven't figured it out as well, because whenever I end up at the back of the field, which is somewhat regular, I drop the clutch, and I've overtaken multiple people before the first corner every time I've been at the back of the pack, because some people haven't quite twigged yet.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like if I've got a double clutch set up on my paddles, so I can use you got a half like a clutch twin paddles.
Yeah.
So you get that biting point, and then when you take off, it just goes.
Yeah, it's excellent.
If you can nail it, but finding that bite point and getting it right, and it all comes together.
Well, I'll see you on track tomorrow night, buddy. We've got a lot of milk because we're about to cross over to the GT4s.
No worries. Thanks, boys. Have a good night.
You too, buddy. Alright, and as you can see on your screen, we are midway through the qualifying for the GT4s, and we'll be bringing you live action from there very, very shortly in the form of the actual race. But for now, it's Aiden Luthwaite who leads the times. Samuel behind him, and then Mark Gomez in third, John Merritt in fourth, and Mikey Hammond in fifth. And quite a few names in that pack you'll be familiar with from the Mazda MX-5 race that we just watched. For those of you not familiar with the circuit, this is of course Zandvoort. It's a circuit that's come back into favour ever since it regained its spot on the Formula 1 calendar after going through some renovations. I think it was a circuit that was well known to the motorsport diehards before that, but it really brought it back into the mainstream, and in particular they made a couple of changes, most famously to the final corner to make it heavily banked so you can get make the final corner flat out and get a much better run into the first corner, which hasn't really been enough to promote overtaking there in Formula 1, which is what it was intended for, but for every other category it's worked a darn treat, and I'm very much looking forward to this one. But that was not an excited noise, that was in fact a hiccup. As we watched John Merritt in his Aston Martin giving us a nice display of how to find the racing line at Zandvoort. Tricky corner, that one. The entry for it comes up on it a bit earlier than you expect. You have to brake even earlier than you expect, but it can be very easy to actually scrub off too much speed because it is such a wide corner. So it's that corner is very, very tricky. We're watching him into that corner, which is also tighter than you think, but you can really attack that curb on the inside. It doesn't unsettle these cars too much and you don't get a slowdown for it, or even a 1x, so you can really attack that. And then you're carrying as much speed on the exit of here as you can right up over those curves, because you are full throttle through this bank corner very, very easily. However, if it does rain at any point, not looking like it's going to rain, I'm not sure rain is enabled for GT4s. Next season? Yeah. Excellent. Then that corner all of a sudden becomes very, very, very tricky indeed. You know, we go down to corner one, which is a double right-hander in a similar vein to Suzuka, but a lot slower. As we cut to Gary Cousins now going through the fantastically fast middle sector. In that corner there, look for a bit of chaos there on lap one, because it is not, well, if you're very, very good, and depending on the setup of your car and perhaps even the exact car you're driving, and you get the line right, it's full throttle on cold tyres. However, for most of us mere mortals, it will not be full throttle on cold tyres. It is full throttle when your tyres are warmed up, very easily so. So I expect to see a few cars going off on the first lap there if they're not watching the car ahead, because they'll think they can take it full throttle and they won't be able to. So keep an eye out for that one on the first lap, potentially even second lap, essentially until you get those tyres nice and warmed up. And once you do get warmed up, it is easy flat. However, you do need to be careful, because if you touch the grass on the outside, you will go for a spin, and I don't think there's much you can do about it. So it is full throttle, but you do need to be careful. You need to be aware to the possibility that you might not get the line quite right, particularly if you are racing side by side with somebody else, and need to be aware of the danger of the grass on the outside.
Also, just to
go ahead.
Just to touch on just when you were saying about World Motorsport here at Zandvoort and things like that, just in other World Motorsport news, let's not forget that Le Mans is this weekend, 24-hour Le Mans, live from France. So it'll be a pretty hectic week for World Motorsport, starting from, I believe, free practices tomorrow. Could even be tonight, I'm not too sure, but I believe it is from tomorrow onwards. So yeah, it's going to ramp up pretty hard. I can't think of any other motorsport events that are on this weekend, though. Admittedly, I only follow a handful. Probably something I'm forgetting there, but yeah, should be a pretty critical weekend.
There is the GSRC.
Very true.
6 hours of Circuit de la Sarve at 4 times speed, I think is the legally correct way to say that.
Very true.
Entries are, of course, still open for that, so if you'd like to submit a team for our very own version of that famous race, then do get involved. You can get if you have a GSRC membership, then you are already entitled to take part in the Endurance Series. You can get a specific Endurance Series only entry as well. And that runs on a separate server currently, although I do believe it is going to be brought into the main Discord at some point in the future. So do get involved with that, and the best person to get in contact with for that is you can get in contact with myself, or you can get in contact with, it's Josh Zuno that runs it, isn't it? I feel horrible if I've got that wrong. It is Josh Zuno. I just doubted myself as soon as the name came in my head, like, it is him, like 80% sure, but like, I don't want to get it wrong. So yes, get in contact with him, and you can still take part in that what should be fantastic race. However, we've got a fantastic race right here before us tonight, and it will start with Raceway on pole and Samuel alongside him. On the second row will be Gomez and Slade, and on the third, Merritt and Hammond. Fourth row will then be Gary Cousins and Dane Snellen, with Dale Sharp and Dave Oliver behind them. Chapman lines up in 11th with Paul Wood alongside him. Then it's Christensen in 13th with Foster in 14th, and then De Bruyne and Adams on the 8th row. The 9th row is McGrath and Zamora, with Camo and Heaney at the back of the top 20. We then have Colgan 21st, Kearns 22nd, Cochrane in 23rd, apologies there, please tell me how to pronounce your name. Schultz in 24th, and Bradbury in 25th position. Very even numbers across the two races tonight.
I think it's Cochrane.
Cochrane. Of course it is.
That's pronounced. Usually there's an E though, to be fair, so I could be wrong.
I was screwing myself with the first syllable. That's what I was doing. Thank you very much, Daniel. As we watch the cars line up behind the safety car, because of course we do have a rolling start for the GT4s, just to keep everything a little calmer, but then the intensity is going to ratchet up immediately because we have a 15-minute sprint race to start off proceeding, followed by a 25-minute feature race. You'll be familiar with the layout of these races because it's exactly the same as what we ran in the production car cup, although that is not always the case for the GT4. We do vary the format week by week, but we keep the cars the same, unlike the production car cup where we keep the format the same and we change the cars. It does, however, give us in commentary a much more fighting chance to get used to people's liveries, which is rather hard to do when they change cars every week, and some do not keep the same livery across their cars. Aidan Luthwaite's going to lead the right-hand column. Samuel is going to lead the left-hand column. For those who are unfamiliar with the rules, Samuel has to stay a tiny bit behind. Luthwaite can be somewhat alongside, as long as the front of his car is not ahead of the front of Samuel is. Generally, you leave a bit of a gap because you're not sure when they're going to go, so you keep it nice and safe. But as soon as the flag lights go green, they can race, and it's Luthwaite who will decide when the flags go green.
He did not Trent, unfortunately. He was a bit too late on the register.
And Luthwaite has decided to turn it green, and he's done it very well, getting a good job on Samuel, who's immediately under pressure from Gomez, Merritt and Slade. Gomez in third place, and I think there's been a mistake there. Someone's fallen down the field. Jake Slade it is, who's absolutely plummeted down here outside the top 10. As you see cars going side by side through that corner, we're not going to see that later on the race. Oh, that's Luthwaite. Luthwaite's crashed from the lead. And then he's been collected by Dave Oliver, I think. And he stopped in the middle of the track, which, yeah, just doing a sensible thing, not wanting to be an obstacle for anybody else. He's got it wrong on the curb. An absolute gift for Samuel, and then get a nasty punt.
It's a huge hit. Oh.
Ooh. And that is why sim racing is less painful than real life racing. As an instance like that. Samuel leads the race with Gomez second. Hammond finds himself in a familiar position of the top three, having a really strong evening. Is Hammond certainly where he's been able to run, not always his finishing positions. Hopefully he can turn that around in the GT4s and bring home a podium for himself. Dane Snellen runs in fourth place. This is a driver that continues to improve every time I watch him at the GSRC. Lovely to see him running in the top 5. Sam Chapman is in 8th, so he's up 3 positions from his starting spot and looking for a strong finish in the GT4s, just like he had in the production cars. But if you do remember, his sprint race in the production cars did not go well, so he'll be hoping for better in the second category of the night. Now on board with Paul Wood, who sits in 10th place and pole position for the feature race. So it's not to make a move into corner 1, but you can see what I mean. It is one corner, but it almost has a double apex. So you can actually make a move late around the outside and carry more speed through there if you want to, and really compromise. This is another corner, corner 3, where you can make a move, because what you can do is carry more speed through there and leave yourself compromised for that heavily banked corner 3. But because it is heavily banked, you're not as compromised on the inside, and it is easier to keep a tight line. So you can deliberately do that, and then you right. And Sam Chapman, was there a touch, or did he just get it wrong?
I think he just went a little too fast, and rather than spinning the car around, he went off to try and keep it as straight as possible. So he'll rejoin just in front of Jeff Adams there on the Mercedes. So started in 11th, Sam Chapman, so he's only really lost 1 from the start of this race, but he did have a lot of hard work there that's just gone undone, which is uncharacteristic. It seems actually pretty good in this GT4s, but yeah, obviously just went a little too fast and got caught out there, so he drops down.
Former champion, is he not in the GT4s?
I'm going to cheat and do this. Well, that's not updated, but I believe he is.
Believe he either was, or he missed out on the final round. He's definitely been in the title hunt in the GT4s before, because I have to be honest and say that I was cheering for him because we are commentary buddies. As I cheer for you when I see you in the series as well, Daniel, and the rest of our commentary brethren. As we watch John Merritt. So there you go. If you want to get supported and have obvious bias in the in the streams that I'm commentating, then just do a few stints of commentary with me, and you will get that. As we watch John Merritt. Oh, I suppose don't be a prat when you do it. Not that I've had that experience. John Merritt putting a lot of pressure on Dane Snadden, but James Snadden cool as a cucumber right now, knowing that this is quite a narrow track, and so Merritt really needs to make something happen as long as Snadden doesn't make a mistake. But what we're going to see here is the very, very important difference between a track where it's hard to overtake and a track where it's possible to overtake. This is a great track. Overtaking is difficult here. It's certainly more difficult than Willow Springs. However, it's certainly not impossible to overtake. Well, James Snadden's going to make that very easy for John Merritt by going for a spin. That cucumber persona has made way for a fiery jalapeno, and he has gone for a spin. As we watch Michael Hammond in 3rd place, putting pressure on Gomez. Hopefully Gomez can do a better job of staying cool. But we'll have to wait and see. Certainly got a cool colour scheme with the silver and blue. Mikey Hammond representing Bailey Ladders always get out a strong contingent in the GSRC, and we thank the club for their support, as we do thank all of the clubs that support us heavily. Just off the top of my head, Bean Boss Boys have been a constant presence. Obviously, we spoke to a couple of the members from Locked On Esports last time out. We have Merritt from Pulse Tuning. There's a few other squads. Apologies for those I can't name. I can't possibly name all of you because we have so much support in the GSRC.
So Sam has had a handful of top 3s, but always the bridesmaid.
Always the bridesmaid. That surprises me.
Well, if we have a look at the current points, 4 points. Let's have a look here. So, well, he's not doing it this time, though.
No, he's not raced all the. Yeah. He's missed a bunch of races this year. This time out.
Sam Muir's actually got quite a decent gap there. 365 to 286 there for Gary Cousins at B2 and Adam Lavis at the 268 P3. So, yeah, unfortunately, again, another one will slip from Sam. Hopefully, he will. I mean, I would hope once the next but they didn't really address it because, yeah, with the GT4s are now rain enabled. With the latest patch, obviously that won't be turned on for the GT4s just yet, and I think the committee is still deliberating as to whether or not rain races will make an appearance, because it seems as though there is a graphical bug that is causing some people to be ejected from the race server due to rain. It's just an instant crash of the game client, and so yeah, that's obviously not a fair thing to happen for some.
Is that across all vehicles, or is it limited to specific vehicles?
No, that's just a client issue, and it doesn't affect everybody. It only affects some. The hint is that it's to do with NVIDIA series GPUs, a certain range of them. So yeah, it's something that iRacing is aware of, but I don't think a solid fix has yet been discussed. So it's going to be a rough one, because I would love to see rain races in the GT4s, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it'd be absolutely spectacular. Hopefully, iRacing remove the problem for us, and we can go racing with no negative effects to anybody in the championships. And just to wrap up that chat we had about Chapman and his championships, the poor guy might not have got a GT4, but he has won the formal Motorsports Australia GRE6 category, and got to go to the Motorsport Awards to pick up his trophy alongside the likes of all the big names in Australian motorsports. So, you know, the supercars drivers and such people. So I'm sure that was a horrible experience for him. I'm sure he'd much rather have won the GSRC GT4 championship, but he'll have to make do with that instead. As we watch Hammond, who's doing his best to try and make his trying to make his self known to the top two in this race. We were getting a nice gap out front of 2.2 seconds. So Hammond does have eyes on first place. He's going to have to make a move and want going sooner rather than later, because they are over halfway through this race now, and he has got quite a tidy gap. He's going to have to close in on Zamua if he's going to be able to make a move before the end of this one.
Just to touch on Daniel Snedden's comment there, talking about hardware requirements needing to rise because it can't hold everyone else back forever either. That's true. And you know, if you want to hold yourself as the best simulator, then at some point your graphics also. Oh, is Michael Ham a little too close there? But luckily no contact. Yeah, your graphics do have to come up to scratch. Obviously the handling model is considered the best there is at the moment. The tires could be improved, but they've gone leaps and bounds better than what they were before. Wow, Hyman's making it so difficult for me to talk about this, because he's decided that while everyone's GT racing, he wants to go rally racing. So yes, and in some of the developer updates, iRacing have already shown off how they've hired new people in the audio department and the graphics department, and that they're looking at a graphics overhaul and an audio overhaul. And the audio overhaul actually sounds really impressive to me, because they're not going with canned effects and canned filters. They're actually going with true to life audio recordings and a proper reverb sound. So that should be cool when it hits. But yes, the thing is with this particular bug, even people with powerful systems are getting affected. It's not something where it's like your computer cannot run this and therefore it crashes. It's more so there's just something
driver incompatible. Most likely it'll be incompatible drivers. It's something that NVIDIA is actually having more and more of an issue with, because it's not just limited to iRacing. It's happened in other games. I believe. So at the moment, for instance, it doesn't work with game mode on Samsung TVs. Is a known bug. So if you hook it up to a TV and you run the TV in game mode, which makes it more responsive, etc., it actually doesn't talk well with NVIDIA's drivers, and instead it just goes blank and doesn't work. That's an example. There's definitely been examples of games that don't run in with NVIDIA graphics cards or crash, and it'll happen for a while until the driver gets updated. It's just one of those things that can happen, and it's not just NVIDIA. For instance, I used to have an AMD one, and it couldn't run the start of Civ 6, and it would fail unless you started it in a specific setting. So yeah, these things happen. It's one of the problems with just PC. I mean, I know this isn't a game, but PC gaming in general that the hardware, because there's so many different specs of hardware, occasionally a spec doesn't work with it, and it's just very hard to make it work with absolutely everything. Obviously, a lot of games, a lot of simulation software does manage to make it work with everything, but occasionally there'll just be some driver incompatibilities that rear the ugly heads, and it sounds like iRacing have found one with their wet model. And just going back to what you said about them looking at the graphics as well, the contact! Gomez goes into the back of Hammond. Hammond goes for a nice, neat little spin. He gets back on going. He loses position to Merritt, but he's going to stay in the podium positions. Absolutely beautiful. He could definitely make the ice skating, figure skating team for Australia. But I think he can stick to his racing for now. But it's good to know he's got a backup career should racing not pan out for him. As we go back to Chapman at the back of a very, very tight four-car battle. There's no way those cars are going to stay that tight and make it to the end without contact. Almost goes to the back of the Bailey Ladders entry of David Christensen. Just avoids the back of him. Just seeing trying to carry more speed but can't find a way through. Ooh. Be careful, Sam. What you're seeing there is someone getting impatient. Very, very much getting impatient. I know, because this is exactly what it looks like from my sim when I'm behind someone that I think I'm faster than. And I'm terrible at getting impatient and going into the back of them.
Trent, Mikey, how's my tutu having? That's exactly right.
Guys, comment of the week there. It's my tutu Hammond.
It was a really good catch, though. I mean, if he hadn't have stopped, if he had like literally spun it and then just kept going, in one fluid motion, would have been dope. But alas, he had to stop, and so it cost him a little bit. Ended up way better than Mark Gomes, though. So Jake Slade managing to sneak up there in a P4 now, so he'll split those two. Sam Muir 7 seconds down the road here for the first race. Remember, this is a sprint format, so we'll have another one right after this. Must have been to Cape Town recently. It's actually ridiculous, the drifting scene. Drifting's a strong word. It's ridiculous, the spinning scene in Cape Town. Like, I think it's called spinning. Am I wrong there? I think it's actually just straight up spinning, where they just burn tires and spin in a circle. But they do really dumb stuff, like they lock the steering wheel and then take the steering wheel off, and then the car's just sitting there doing donuts. And you're like, so are you going to catch that, or what's the deal here? But yeah, those guys are nuts.
And we're nuts about the racing in this category. Hopefully there's a bit of a change of position for these four before the end of the race, as we've crossed the 15-minute marker. Although it is a 16-minute race, so slightly longer than the sprint race that we saw for the production car cup, as we watch Samuel take the checkered flag. Take the white flag?
White flag, yep.
Look checkered to me.
I know. See how the top of the timing tower is white?
I did notice that. That was why I corrected myself. Just look checkered to me. Maybe it's my eyesight. It definitely could be on my eyesight. As John Merritt is in second place now, and he's managed to continue to gap Hammond. So he did get ahead of Hammond through Fortune, but has stayed ahead of him. Hammond actually defending from Jake Slade now, who's within a second of him. But then we've got a healthy gap back to Mark Gomez, as you alluded to earlier, definitely coming up the worst in that contact, and as he should as the instigator. And I suspect there'll be a penalty coming his way.
Yes, the reason why we can see that white flag indicator on the top of that racing tower is because this is actually lap set, not time set. So the first race is 10 laps, the second one being 15 with a reverse grid top 10. So yes, last lap, Sam Muir with a very decent gap there, 7.3 seconds. And he will most likely, unless a massive mistake here in the last couple of turns, but I very much doubt it, will go on to take the checkered flag and the win here for race one. John Merritt, of course, doing a really good job there. 3 positions from the start of the race. He's 1.5 seconds ahead of Michael Hammond, who obviously had that twirl earlier on, but still managed to hold on to it. So as long as Jake Slade doesn't gain up 5 tenths, he should be all right.
He's running out of corners to do it as well, as we watch Samuel come around the final corner to take an absolutely dominant victory. 7 seconds in the end, the gap between him and Merritt, and he'll start in 10th place for the feature race. John Merritt's going to take the 2nd place after gaining 3rd when Hammond had that collision. Hammond's going to hold on for a podium finish with Jake Slade right behind him. Then Mark Gomez in contention for the podium early on, but due to that contact falls down to 5th with Gary Cousins in 6th, Paul in 7th, Chapman in 8th, Christensen in 9th. And Jeff Adams taking pole position for the feature race in 10th spot. Behind them is then Thomas Foster, Robert McGrath, Neil De Bruyne, Eduardo Zamora, Dane Snadden after his early incident, then Dale Sharp in 16th, Greg Heaney in 17th, Colgan in 18th, Bradbury in 19th, and Kent in 10th. Aidan Lufwait retired after his mistake from the lead on lap 1. Well, hopefully he returns for the beach race, because there'll be a lot of fun watching him come from the back. And we won't have long to wait for that feature race. However, we do have that little warm-up in between the 2 races, just to give the drivers a chance to reset, go a drink, take an emergency toilet break if they need it, and just do whatever it is they like to do when they have 3 minutes to themselves. And these are our club sponsors running along the bottom of our screen now. Of course, we're only able to bring you this vision, bring you the commentary, bring you things like race control because of the support of our sponsors, and they're going across the bottom of your screen right now. Please support them, because by supporting them, you support us. And if you would like to become a sponsor either of the club in general or specifically sponsor a series, you can certainly do so. There's plenty of opportunities. Please just talk to one of the committee members. And in fact, I believe I'm right in saying, Daniel, that you represent one of our supporters.
Yeah, in a way. I am the primary contact for anyone in the club who do any dealings with M-Wave. We're, of course, an online tech retailer, one of the largest in Australia. And yeah, if you need any hardware upgrades, we also do sim gear as well. We're getting into sim gear as well. We've got a small lineup, but it's slowly growing. So yeah, if you need any assistance with that, feel free to reach out to me, and we'll see if we can take care of it.
And there's an affiliate link in the Discord, is there not?
Yes, right. You can use the affiliate link in the Discord, and that way a small percentage of anything you buy through M-Wave will go back to the club.
And if you're buying a new computer, that can get pretty pricey, so a small percentage still ends up with an okay amount going back to the club. A few dollary dues. And just to remind you as well that the club is a non-for-profit club, so it's not like any money you do spend, for instance, at the club's merchandise store, is going to go to lining anyone's pocket. It all comes back to the members in member benefits. The more money we spend on the club, either through increased memberships or through merch sales or anything like that, the more money we have to spend on broadcasts, the more money we have to spend on race control, and the better the experience we can make for members. Of course, we do already run series 7 days a week, pretty much, certainly 6 days every week, and then on Sundays when we have an endurance race. And we have a few of those broadcast, but the more support the clubs get, the more of those we can broadcast for you, the more people we can bring in to help with those broadcasts, the more likely they are to run as well. So if you're looking to get involved either as a producer or a commentator or as race control, we're always crying out for people. Please do just that. Anybody in the committee know, and they will help you get up to speed. It is a very, very positive experience. I can highly recommend it from personal experience. But enough about the club, let's talk about the race. Jeff Adams starts a pole for the feature race with David Christensen alongside him. Then on row 2 is Chapman and Wood, with Cousins and Gomez right behind them. Then it's Slade in 7th, Hammond in 8th, Merritt in 9th, and Samuel, by virtue of his win in race 1, starts in 10th position. Foster is in 11th with McGrath alongside him. The 7th row is then De Bruyne and Zamora, with the 8th row being Snadden and Sharp. Behind them is Heaney and Colgan, with Bradbury and Lindsay Kearns in 20th position. Then in 21st is Dave Oliver, 22nd is Bobby Camo. Lufwait starts in 23rd, with Cochran in 24th, Cochran in 24th, and Schultz in 25th, although so far Camo, Lufwait, Cochran and Schultz are yet to take the field, and it seems like they may not be taking part in this race, so we're down to a field of 21 cars. And Jeff Adams this time will lead them away, so he will lead the right lane. David Christensen will lead the left lane in this rolling start, and the cars will form up in 2 lanes behind them, nice and neat, and then we will go racing. Of course, in the real world, if the lanes aren't neat enough, then they won't fly the green flag and they'll go around for another warm-up lap, but that's not going to happen. In iRacing, we will go racing regardless of how neat they are, but some people might just get a penalty if they do it wrong. As they come around the final corner, Jeff Adams will decide when to extend his right foot, extend the throttle, and take us away to racing speeds. The safety car will peel into the pits, and now you can see it doing that on the left hand of your screen. Jeff Adams takes control of the field, does not have to worry about waiting for the safety car to get away. When's he going to put his foot down? He's put his foot down, and looks like Christensen is slow on the pickup, judging by the fact that Gomez has already pulled out on the left lane to try and make sure it doesn't go into the back of the car ahead. Let's see, yeah, he's going to lose a couple of positions into the first corner. Down, oh, there's a spin there. I think that's Paul Wood going for a spin in his Bailey Ladders entry. Almost contact there. I believe that's Samuel almost in contact with whoever that is on his right hand side. It must be Robert McGrath. He just get past it. Oh, there's a spin. Samuel going for a spin. Will he get collected? No, he avoids the nasty contact. He should be able to get going again if you get turned round. But you can see how many seconds he is losing. The traction control not helping him there. Spin the car around. So Jeff Adams still leads, Sam Chapman in second, Gomez in third, Christensen in fourth, Cousins in fifth, Merritt in sixth, up 3 spots. Big win out of all that is Dale Sharp and Eduardo Mora. Mora is up into ninth, up 5 spots. Dale Sharp is up 6 spots from 16th to 10th for his watch. Hammond going along around the outside of Merritt. Not very often. Somebody goes around the outside of Merritt and makes it work, but Hammond's going to make it work as he turns that into the inside for the next corner. Oh, huge slide there from Merritt, but manages to collect it and just about keep it on the black stuff. So he gets right up the rear end of Hammond as they approach the final sector of the lap. A couple of cars dipping their wheel into the gravel, judging by the dust, but getting away with it. They approach the penultimate corner, one of the most important corners on the track, just to make sure you get that good run onto this final corner. Keep it flat out until you reach corner 1. Which feels like an overtaking opportunity, but I'm not really sure it is. The better opportunity is if you can stay close and then follow them into 3. Call the Bailey Ladders there. Fighting for team honours.
Oh, he's tapped him.
Oh, yeah. Hammond going to the back of Cousins.
And now John Merritt's looking for a possible attack there. So, yeah. Oh,
that's contact. That's contact. Merritt's round. Oh. So, it looks like Merritt's tapped the back of Hammond. Then he's taking a tap from Cousins. And it looked like there might have been a third car involved, but I think the third car's got away with it. Side for the lead. Chapman balled around the outside, not going to make that work. Jeff Adams stern in defence.
Man, I'll tell you what, that is such an amazing defence there from Jeff Adams. Sam Chapman was completely alongside, and Jeff said, no, I'm not lifting. I'm going to stick in this inside line, and if you want to stay there, stay there. And Sam could not make that move stick. Jeff Adams holds on to the lead, and that's allowed Mark Gomez to get it just a little bit closer as well. So it is truly a fight at the front as Jeff just gets a little sideways coming out of the turn.
Yeah, we've got a growing bank of great manoeuvres and incidents to go back and watch once the race does settle down, but we're not going to do that right now. We're going to keep watching how this unfolds. Mark Gomez looking dangerous in 3rd place. If anything, Chapman's going to be looking in his rear mirrors as he approaches the first corner. Jeff Adams driving a really good race so far for Mod Racing. Gets good one out, good half-second buffer to Chapman's. Chapman's not going to be close enough to make a move by the time they reach the next braking point. Behind them, David Christensen sets the fastest lap of the race to bring himself into this top 5. And Dane Snadden immediately beats that, moving himself up into 9th place in the process. So watch out for Dane Snadden, ladies and gentlemen. He has got severe pace at this point in the race. Sam Chapman getting that really wrong, going up very well. Oh no, look at the exit he's got from that corner. That is fantastic for Chapman, taking advantage of the profile of that corner to get past miles before They get down the straight, absolutely incredible launch Chapman got out of that corner, and just uses that to brush Adams aside like a leaf in the wind. I mean, just see what pace Chapman has.
Yeah, that was significant. That was a significant difference in speed. Damn, it was like it came out of a slingshot. Just,
it almost looked like he got punted from behind. You know, how much speed he just suddenly had.
Yeah, it's obviously it's just him taking the banking exactly right, which is what you do. But yeah, wow, I'm still trying to come to terms with that. That was actually quite a ridiculous exit there from Sam. So, and he's turned it into a 7:10 lead already. So, comes in P2, Gomes still in P3, but the two cars behind have managed to catch up. So now Mike Hammond, although he was tapped in the back by John Merritt earlier on, he's still there. He's surviving. They're in P5 and Tesla fastest out of the race thus far. A 40.5. I take it back. Dane Snatton had something to say about that. 40.404 there from the BMW.
Yeah, keep an eye out for when it gets to Merritt and Samuel. Samuel did have the fastest lap before then, so if he's not being held up by traffic, I dare say he will have the pace to better that. But it's going to be difficult for him to get to the pointy end of a 15-lap race when we're already on lap 4. He's currently in 20th position and a healthy chunk off the lead. An healthy chunk? An unhealthy chunk off the lead. Way too much. A bit of junk food between him and Chapman.
So Jeff was doing a really good job with defense there earlier, but now that Sim Chapman has gotten in front, he's just absolutely breaking away, and it looks like Mark Gomes might have something to say about it. Tries to sneak down the inside. It's Merc v Merc, and behind them are two Porsches. It's almost a mirror battle here as Mike Hammond goes down the inside. David Christensen doesn't fight that too hard. They are teammates. Let's not forget, both race for the Aussie Racers stable. Daniel started there sounding like a straight slave, hit it real early to be where he lands. Yeah, we'll see if the undercut is stronger than the overcut. Obviously, he was also caught up with those early incidents, and so an early pit stop might be just what he needs. He'll probably have to...
There's a spin there, and that's going to be hard into the wall for Thomas Foster. Just saw that in the background of the shot. I do not believe that car is going to be able to continue because all these are front-engined cars. Just tries to get on the front too early, touches the grass on the outside and settles the car. Bam!
Big hit.
Oh, is able to continue by the looks of it.
Yeah, look at this.
And Mark Gomez ahead of Adams. So that's happened somewhere.
Yeah, that's
Gomez
happened
ahead of
right
Adams.
there. So Adams, something's going on there. He had that really early confidence there. You can see him running side by side with Sim Chapman. Absolutely pulled off the defensive move, but now it does seem as it's starting to get away. I don't know if it's pressure that's just cracking under the pressure there. You can see Mikey Hammond now going. You know how aggressive Mikey Hammond can be. He gets that move done, no problem at all. P3 now for the Porsche. And Jeff might have something to say about it down the inside. And he tries to hold on, but it doesn't look like he's got the speed. He really did push it. But he will stay fourth for now. David Christensen getting the best view in the house of that procession. They gave each other the room. And nobody came between them. And Marky Hammond will stay in P3.
I wonder if what we're seeing is just that Jeff Adams had really good cold tyre pace. And as the tyres have heated up, he just hasn't quite got the pace of Chapman, Gomez, Hammond and Christensen. So he's just fallen back despite his brilliant driving and certainly brilliant defensive driving, not defending clean air, not changing his line overly, just making sure that the car behind has to overtake him rather than being gifted the spot and being forceful in decision to say, nope, this is my line and I'm not adjusting it just because you're close to me. You need to adjust your line to get around me, and doing a fantastic job, but just, yeah, quite heavily doesn't quite have the pace of those cars around him now that the tyres have heated up.
Yeah, that's one of the things you need to. That's one of the things you need to remember with when it comes to motor racing is speed is just one factor. When it comes to racecraft, the best drivers know where to place their cars, know how to make others make mistakes, know how to goad mistakes from other drivers, and so yeah, you can be the fastest driver there, but if you're not consistent, chances are you're going to crash. and you're not going to finish first. And you know, it also helps if you know how to play the mental game. You can make the best of drivers crumble if you know exactly where to push their buttons. Some would argue that is the purpose of flashing lights. I tend not to do that. I'm not a big fan of it, but I would be lying if I didn't say that it's effective. Some people, you can absolutely make people have a mental breakdown if you keep flashing them. And it is literally just the effect of a light turning on and off in a rapid motion. But somehow it makes people lose it. And when they lose it, they stop focusing. And when they stop focusing, they're more prone to mistakes. And it's much easier for you to make an overtake. I'm not condoning the behavior. I'm just acknowledging the behavior.
Oh yeah, it is directly linked to my spinal cord and turns me to mush. I'm not good at defensive driving at the best of times. I am someone who gets noticeably slower when I have someone behind them because I just stress out, and that just raises the stress from what's already like a 7 or 8 out of 10 to immediately to a 10 or 11 out of 10.
Yeah, it takes
good.
Yeah, it takes some time in order to get used to that type of driving. You just have to reframe it in a different positive. So if I'm driving and someone's flashing their lights behind me, I just pretend I'm driving in a rave. You know, I'm just doing the event, but there's the strobe lights going off. That's exactly. That's the racetrack. But yeah, it's kind of nutty just how susceptible some people are, and so yeah, again, I don't condone it, but you do have other tools at your disposal when it comes to racecraft, and you would be a fool to not at least look into all of them.
Yeah.
Jeff's going really wide down
dangerous.
the outside. So he had to pull that car up. That's allowed David Christensen to shoot up on the inside. So he gets P4 now. And yeah, Jeff is unfortunately starting to crack. And I have a feeling, I suspect, that car, those tires are probably screaming in agony. I know that the Merc is quite heavy. Mark Gomes is actually P2 in the Merc. So he's making it work there. But yeah, Jeff had all this pace up at the front and the start of this race, and now it's starting to slip away. And he still has a 1.3 second gap to the car behind, so maybe he can just hold on here for P5. Maybe he can even make an attack back to P4 later on. But we are just creeping over to the halfway mark now. And as it stands, Jeff Adams has now lost 4 positions.
Yeah, and I suspect he's going to struggle to keep Sharp and Snadden behind him, given Sharp is up 10 spots from 16th to 6th, and Snadden is up 8 spots from 15th to 7th, and they have both got significantly better last and best lap times than Jeff, and he pulls into the pits, so he might have been right, he might have cooked his tyres, but it is lap 8 of 15. It is the midpoint. Theoretically, it's the most logical point to pit. So he's doing so and going to run 2 even splits. But just to see where he does come out in comparison to Muir, Heaney, Foster, and Slade, who all pitted, have all pitted already. I suspect he should come out ahead of them, and will be effectively the leader on the pit relatively early strategy. As you watch Dane Snadden right behind Sharp, not giving him any more space than he needs to avoid contact. Question is, does Snadden have more pace at this point? From the brief glimpse we've had, you would suspect so, but it can be misleading. Or Hugh, both of them get the huge amount of curb there and almost push themselves too wide through the next corner, but in fact judging it perfectly and just giving themselves a nice wide entry for the second part of that double right-hander.
So I was going to bring that up.
Snedden and Snadden.
Yeah, you go Snedden and Snadden. It's that's right on the nose there.
All we need now is a Snidden, a Snodden, and a Snudden.
Right.
And then we'll have to
we'll just bring all the members of the Val family. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. I mean, the closest battle on track at the moment is between Dale Sharp and Dane Snadden. Everyone else has really extended that gap. We're going to cross the line here in a moment for lap. Also, that is lap 9. That was Sam Chapman that did that earlier. And I think he still holds a fastest lap. Actually, no, it's
Mark Gomez.
Mark Gomez, 140.21.
Yeah, but watching the lap times of Chapman and Gomez is closing him in slowly but surely. Some laps Chapman is able to go with Gomez's pace, but Gomez is able to stay at that pace. The sort of the low 1 minute 40s more consistently with Chapman. Chapman every so often is dipping down below the 1 minute 40.5, and that means Gomez is slowly catching in. I will admit that it is difficult when it is you and Dane fighting. It does not make our life easier. But I have also called races where there are four. One of the enduro races there was I think the 4 cars in the same stable, and the only difference was the colour of tyres. And they were slow in, slow out, slower in, slower out, slowest in, slowest out, in slowerest out were the names. Yeah, that was a rough time.
Yeah, I can tell you right now that would go well for me for about 5 minutes before I started being like CISO 2, CISO 3. I would not be. Oh man, there's no way I'd be able to handle that.
Yeah, Hack, if you want your team name to get said on the broadcast, if you make it too difficult to say, I will just use the driver names. And I'm sure most of the commentators will do the same. We will cheat, because it's hard enough getting our brains to work already. I've already slurred a bunch of words tonight. It's hard work.
If you want proof of that, as John Merritt just comes in the pits, as Mark Gomes set another faster start there, 40.20. If you want proof of that, as to how commentators will try and find the fastest way or the most efficient way of commentating, there is a team in Formula One, and its name is Visa Cash App. I think it's Visa Cash App RB. I believe. I don't think it's Racing Bulls. But anyway, nobody says that. They say VCARB. It's meant to be Kick Sauber F1 team.
Oh, that's ambitious! And there's contact there. Sorry.
No,
Neil
that's
De
okay.
Bruyne cutting that corner and just looked like he slammed into McGrath, but both cars able to keep it going. So it must have been lighter contact than it looked, or just very close without contact. But very aggressive from Neil De Bruyne, and it almost ended in disaster. And continue your story.
So Stake F1 team kicks out Stake F1 team Kick Sauber or something, and we just call it Sauber. What's the other one? What's the other ridiculous
Audi.
name? It's technically not officially Audi, but yeah, I mean it will be, so why not? And what's the other one? I don't think there is. Is there another one? No, I think those are the only two ridiculous names.
What is it? It's Mercedes-Benz AMG Petronas?
Yeah, nobody cares about that. It's been that for years.
Nobody
It's
cares
just
about that.
Mercedes.
Just right. Oh, no, there's an Ineos in there. There's an Ineos in there as well somewhere.
No, Ineos is a big sponsor, but it's not part of the team name. The team name is Mercedes Petronas. Mercedes AMG Petronas F1 team.
No, it's in there because they're equal parts co-owner.
Oh, really?
It's equal parts Mercedes, Toto Wolff, and Ineos.
Fair enough. Well,
because there was a rumor that Mercedes were looking to get rid of their share, and they would continue as an engine supplier, so the name would still be with the team as an engine supplier, and it would be Ineos.
Okay. That would be weird. Don't know. That would be weird.
Yeah, I don't see it happening since the corporate structure's changed to make it much more profitable. But Mercedes is a profitable F1 team. And I think that's why they stayed in. I think had it kept costing them money, I think they would have pulled out.
Yeah, they also get a legacy payment though. You get a legacy payment from Formula One, depending on your tenure, as it were, depending on how many years. Which is why Ferrari stays in, because one, they're all about F1, and two, they get paid a decent sum of money for just being there. Sam Chapman goes off the road a little.
That's going to light up Gomez's eyes. And if there wasn't a fire in his belly already, there's going to be a fire in his belly now.
That's right.
Because that is a Chapman under pressure and making mistakes. And that is a cool Merc ready to take advantage.
Yep, 4 laps to go in this race. So Sam will be wanting to make sure he gets his head on the straight and narrow and not make any more mistakes, because if he does, as you said, Liam, Mark Gomez will be right there to take the pounce, and he comes into the pits, so never mind. So obviously Sam Chapman is going a little bit further, maybe trying to do a bit of a fuel save. in comparison to some of the guys behind. We'll see how that pans out over the course of the next couple of laps. Daniel Sneddon saying the Mercedes are sandbagging Hamilton. No, Mercedes just have a poor car, and Canada was a nice turnaround. I saw the best meme, actually, because it was all Mercedes did was increase the downforce on the front wing, and all of a sudden they're competing up the front. And it's a meme of a dude looking at a spoiler, and then he picks the spoiler up and turns it upside down, and he's like, yeah. But whatever they did, it worked. George Russell, obviously, which, let's just talk about that for a second. So George Russell managed to snap out a 112 flat, and then Max Verstappen snaps out a 112 flat. And Jacques Villeneuve is in the paddock. So all of a sudden it's bringing notes of, was it Jerez 97? Where it was Harold Frentzen and Michael Schumacher and Jacques Villeneuve, and they all set at the same time. Just nuts. I never thought I'd see that in F1 again, but here we are.
It was nuts, but it's too bad Russell can't put a race together at the moment.
Yeah. So
bombs thrown.
Yeah, that's a rough one. And of course, you had the change of conditions.
It was a difficult race, and that's why I'm tentative to not put too much emphasis on the increase in pace. Yes, there was an increased pace, but a lot of teams had trouble getting the rear axle up temperature, the rear tires. So I think we need to wait one more race to see, because they sort of showed flashes of pace in Monaco, but again, very unique track. Unique conditions at Canada. When it's a more normal weekend, are they still fast? I suspect they are faster, but are they Red Bull, Ferrari, McLaren fast? We'll have to. Not enough evidence yet, given how weird the Canada weekend was. And some cars, they did just seem to lose pace or gain pace randomly. So wait and see. But it was promising that the race pace was very, very good. But given the quality of those drivers, they should not have finished third and fourth in that race. And only because McLaren got Piastri's strategy wrong. They should not be falling behind a second-year driver, effectively, in the McLaren when they have a faster car, given the quality that Russell and Hamilton are supposed to be. Would be my take.
Just touch back here at the race at hand. So lap 13 to 15, Sam Chapman. It comes out 2.6 seconds down the road to Mark Gomez after the pit stops are resolved. So whatever Sam Chapman was doing at the front is definitely working. Now, the question is, can Sam Chapman maintain this pace for another 2 laps? I assume so. He's been doing just great just thus far. And so, yeah, unless he makes a mistake again, it is safe to say that Sam Chapman's probably got this one in the bag. As we move a couple of positions back, Dane Snadden and David Christensen all fighting here, as well as Dale Sharp. So good moves for these guys at the front. Look at Dale Sharp, 13 positions gained from the start of this race. Dane Snadden, 11 positions. Now David Christensen has started in P2, so he's dropped out 3. And played up 16th from the back after 2 stops. Not a good run. Yeah, so he obviously got involved in that early collision, which John Merritt was also a part of. So yeah.
John Merritt is back up to 6th.
Yeah. And Rick Bradbury's up 10 positions too, so good on you. As they come around the corner again, so that's lap 14 now. Sam Chapman just has to go 2 more as it is, and he'll be able to take the win here at Zandvoort. I mean, yeah, David Christensen doing a really good job at the moment. Just to stick onto the back of this BMW here. But it looks like Dale Sharp's actually stretching the legs of that red one. And so a fight of 3 might turn into a fight of 2 here just for P4.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I'll tell you what, if Snadden comes into the commentary box after this race, we're going to have to ask him to give us a detailed diagram of the back of Sharp's car, because I bet he can do it from memory at this point.
Well, I mean, it's essentially the same as his car. They're the same car. Well, just one's red. So, yeah, I'm sure he knows that car well.
Oh, do you see the slide that he got on there on the entry? Really pushing. He's Snadden and lost a bit of time to the much smoother Sharp through there. You can see the differences in that line coming out of that corner, but getting a good run through there is Snadden, which will seem safe from Christensen behind. Dale Sharp getting a bit of love in the chat, which is nice to see, and doing a fantastic job at the moment to hold on to the final spot on the podium. And he's only going to have to do it for one more lap as we come towards the line for the end of lap 14 and come on to the final lap of the race with Sam Chapman a healthy 2-second lead. It's going to take a mistake from him to ruin this one, but we've seen a couple of mistakes from him already today, including in this race, so do not rule it out. Not going to call the victory for him yet, not until we see him cross that line. And I tell you what, Christensen's looking very menacing here, isn't he? Behind Snadden, he's going to go for it around the outside, or he's going to come for the cutback. Isn't able to do it. Even gets a good run out, but it's not going to be enough to get alongside Snadden. Snadden perfect in defence there.
That was a good defensive move there from Snadden. Knew where he could park the car, cut off the possible switch back there, and so that's going to slow down Christensen. He's going to have to do a little bit more work to see if he can get that overtake done by the end of this lap. Sam Chapman, it's pretty much safe. I will say this though, Mark Gomez brought down a 2.7 second gap to a 1.6 second gap. So if he had a couple more laps, maybe the race would be on. This is giving me Imola vibes, as we saw Lando chase down Max, and he would have had him too had there been another couple of laps, but alas, there's a set. We have 15 here. We are on the 15th, and Sam Chapman has done enough thus far to be able to stay ahead and possibly take this win. Only a handful of corners to go. You can see Mark Gomez really attacking these, trying to get back as much time as possible, maybe even trying to grab the draft before we get around the corner, but I think he's too far back. He's brought it down underneath that 1 second mark, but unfortunately these cars don't have DRS, so it is for naught. Sam Chapman will come across around the final turn, and he will take his victory, and it is well deserved.
Yeah, very, very well deserved victory for Sam Chapman. Got to the lead early on and never looked back. Mark Gomez tried to apply the pressure, but just lost out in the pit phase, and that was a decisive move for Chapman to win the race. Dale Sharp up 13 spots into P3, definitely the driver of the race for me. Fantastic effort from Sharpie, with Snadden a very close runner up for that gong, up 11 spots into 4th place. Then Christensen loses out in that battle of 3, finishing in 5th, with Merritt recovering after an early spin into 6th spot. Adams in 7th, De Bruyne in 8th, and Samuel finishes in 9th spot, recovering from the back of the field. Behind them, Wood will finish in 11th, with Colgan behind him. Then it'll be Greg Heaney, Bobby Kimo, Gary Cousins, Jake Slade, and Thomas Foster. A decent race there. Not one that really set off the sparkles like we have seen in GT4 in the past, but certainly some very, very tight racing. It was just the nature of the track. Certainly not possible to overtake. The overtakes that we did see were very well earned. There just wasn't the side-by-side absolute drama that we have been spoilt with on occasion in the GT4s, but still a very enjoyable race, and I'm sure we'll have some very enjoyable chats with the main protagonists once they come into the commentary box. But one man that actually never left the commentary box was Sam Chapman. Sam, are you there?
Yeah, hey, mate.
Could you hear us during the race, or did you have us muted?
No, I did have you muted. Once, I was actually in a half-decent position, I thought, no, we'd better turn the comms off, I think. See if I can concentrate.
Tell you what, I think the power of the commentary curse would be much, much worse if the drivers are actually listening to the commentary.
Oh, it would have been shocking, I reckon. Trying to hold on, jiggling around to the lead, trying not to lose the back of this Porsche. So, yeah, no, it would have been hard work. I've done it before, and it's often ended in penalties. So, we avoided that tonight.
Yeah, can you just start by talking us through that overtake for the lead and the defence that was put up by Phil King beforehand, because there was some robust defence and took you a couple of laps to get past.
Yeah, I mean, it is really difficult to get around here. I do love Zandvoort. I jumped in as Quali was starting, so it was sort of a case of pick up the pace as the night went on. Sort of hence, I guess, why I was a bit quicker in the final race than the first one, and a bit wobbly, particularly in that downhill section. But yeah, walking through that overtake, it's out of the bowl. if you get the right exit, the speed differential is out of control. So if you can hook it up around there, try and use that rear end and push out. If the other car ahead of you doesn't have the best exit, you can just push right past them on either side. You've just got to make sure that it's a big overspeed though, because otherwise you just don't quite have enough overlap by the time you get to that next section. Now, it's arguable whether or not any overlap would be enough for that next section if you sort of call it a bit more of a straight than a corner, but you know, it's still very high risk through there and pretty difficult to control at the best of times, so you don't really want to go pushing too hard.
But saying that, you were able to do that to absolute perfection. We were amazed watching the commentary brief. I think it was the first time we'd seen it really used in the race. I think in race 1 we just didn't see any overtakes of that ilk, whereas that was the first one we saw. We were watching from the behind of King, and it just looked ridiculous, the speed you got off that corner. It was really incredible. And just before that, there'd been a really strong defense from King through that section. Were you expecting that defense?
Yeah, I think I was expecting that defense. It was you know, it's because it is a defensible track, so you know, if you're leading, you may as well try and defend it. But yeah, it's just out of there. In fact, going into that, it was almost accidental because I actually had a bit of a wobble going in, which was part of why I was so high up in the bowl. But because I sort of flicked it back to second and then gunned it back down, and it ended up being even quicker than normal. So it was almost a little bit of an accident. I tried it the lap before, but it didn't work. And yeah, from there it was just, yeah, it was relatively smooth sailing. Sort of did a bit of fuel saving, so that because I didn't think I quite had the pace of Gomes behind either. And particularly as I probably was pushing tyres a bit hard, having not done this for a little bit. So wanted to sort of have a little bit of buffer in that pit lane, which fortunately worked out.
Yeah, it was good. And how much pressure did you feel from Gomez in that final stint?
There certainly was pressure. He was gaining on me. I sort of was making mistakes here and there. I pushed the fronts probably a bit hard, so I was getting a little bit of understeer coming out of corners, which I was struggling with a little bit. But he was certainly making out, you know, like maybe a tenth and a half a lap on average for those laps that he was behind. So then it was a 50-50 as to whether or not I stayed out that extra lap of fuel or just pitted with him. But I sort of just decided, all right, I think I've got enough fuel to make it another lap. Let's give it a crack. But yeah, and then once I kiss it again, the gap was big enough that I was pretty confident I could manage it from there, particularly after the tyres had sort of had a bit of a time to cool down in pit lane.
Yeah, and just outside the race, just because it's been a bit of a topic of the comms this race, flashing lights, yes or no?
I mean, as in for just people that are ahead of you to try and throw them off sort of thing?
Yeah, how do you feel about using it, and how do you feel when somebody does it to you?
I don't even have a keybind for my lights. It's not something that I do. Even when, you know, I'm lapping someone or something like that, I mean, maybe it's silly, but my assumption is that they have a relative screen and they can see a big red mark in their back. I think for me personally, it's just probably a distraction that I don't need to be trying to flash the guy ahead in a battle. And taking your hand off the wheel and fiddling around with that, it's probably just a recipe for trouble on your behalf. But I mean, I don't have an issue with anyone doing it, really. You know, it's a way. If it's a way to throw someone off, it's a way to, you know. My method is usually dancing around their rear quarters and darting from side to side and seeing if they'll give. But you know, if people want to flash their lights, go ahead.
And I'll just pass over to you, Daniel. You got any questions for Sam?
Nah, mate, you did a excellent race there from your race too. Interestingly, I will say this. There was a moment where you and Jeff Adams went side by side, and Jeff really held it out on that inside line, which was really good to see. I thought, yeah,
that was a really good defence through there, like
Yeah.
because that section was my sort of weakest section as you go down and around. That was where I spun off in the first race, and I just couldn't quite. Just on entry, just balancing the rear end of the Porsche going in, it's just so easy for me to lose that rear. So I ended up, being quite tentative into it. So, that was a really good battle there. But was able to end up making it pass. So, it's always good. With Jeff and I have actually had some good battles when I was racing GT4s a bit more often. He's a really good racer.
And talk about Jeff Adams. We've actually been joined by Jeff in the commentary box. So thank you very much for joining us twice tonight, Sam. And congratulations on your victory. And we'll see you, tomorrow for the Formula V's.
Absolutely. Thank you, Liam. Thank you, Dan. I'll catch you later.
Catch you later. And we'll head on over now to have a chat with Jeff Adams. Jeff, really good defence there. Are you pleased with how your feature race panned out?
Oh, it was all right. Good race with Sam. I'm glad I had a good race with him. He's always good to race with. But I was definitely off pace tonight. No practice, no real running, and I just sort of jumped in. I thought, maybe I shouldn't race. But then I got 10th, luckily, out of the blue there. That got me right up the front, which put me up the point end, which I was a little bit nervous. I knew I was going to get swamped, but I tried my hardest. But these boys are pretty quick.
They are. I think you did a stellar job in defence as well. Very, very fair but strong defence, and certainly you made it difficult for most of the cars to get past you. I think there was one point where a couple of cars got past you in quick succession. But certainly the first 2 or 3 had to really work for it. And then you still finished in 7th place, which I think is probably the best you could have hoped for. Given like you said, you didn't quite have to pace the car's head. Is it fair to say you had better pace on cold tyres than on hot tyres?
Yeah, it was the corner that got me every race was every lap pretty much was the carousel or whatever you want to call it, this corner that we're coming up to now. I just didn't know how to get out of it. I knew there was a way to do it, but I was just losing seconds beyond seconds there every time. Everyone had to always get a run on me there, and it was nothing I could do. I was always just going to get swamped. But I had without practice and without learning that type of technique to get out of that corner, I was always going to struggle. And then there is definitely a technique to keep your tyres cool, especially on that hot track on that first race. And with a lot of off-camber corners and a lot of pushing, and the other issue I had was I didn't really have a good tune. The car really wasn't tuned up for anything. I just threw in something that was kind of looked like it'd do all right here, and so that's about all it is. You got to practice in this series to be competitive, and these boys do. And if I don't, then this is what happens. So.
Yeah, I mean, given you had no practice, I think that's still a very, very good result. How do you feel about the finale coming up with you all heading towards... I just realised I don't actually remember the track, because it's not Interlagos, because Interlagos is the Porsche Cup. It is instead...
Yeah, I don't know where it is.
Phillip Island. Phillip Island. Phillip Island.
I've always enjoyed Phillip Island. I don't know if I'm faster than this car at Phillip Island, but I've been quick in it in the skip and a few other cars. I'm happy with that track. I've always been fairly quick in that one, and we'll see if I might actually have some time for practice this one. And is it an endurance round? Is it a longer round for the last round? Is that what it's saying?
It is an enduro, yes. 60-minute race.
Well, that'll be alright. That'll be fun. It's always fun. But top group of guys to race with. I'm always having good fun with them, and they're always good battling with when you're at the point end with some of the really good wheelers out there. And so I had a good night. But I'll be enjoying the last race, and I'm not sure I'll have time for the new season for the GT4s. But we'll see how we go. I've got a pretty busy life with my kids and stuff, so I'll if I can get in there and race, I'll do it. But kids come first, unfortunately. Well, not unfortunately, but that is life. So,
Freudian
I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say that out loud.
Freudian
I said the quote bit out
yeah.
loud. I shouldn't say. All right. Well, thanks, boys. Anyway, enjoy. Thanks for the commentary.
Oh, anytime, buddy. And thanks for giving us some really good racing to talk about tonight. And best of luck with the finale next week.
Cheers. Thanks, everyone.
All right, we've got one more driver to talk to, and that is Dale Sharp, who won out in a tight battle with Dane Snedden and David Christensen, and got himself a spot on the podium, up 13 spots. How did you do it?
I don't really know. It's it was looking a bit bleak at the start because I kind of stuffed up and had a spin in race one and was at the back, and from there I was kind of just hoping I could get into the top 10 and get a reasonable result and to get on the podium. I think some others had some bad luck and had a bit of clear track in the middle there, but yeah, no, I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah, I think it should be. I think there was much more on offer. 16th to the podium is about as good as it gets.
Yeah, I can't argue that. That was because I think I remember saying to the guys in the Discord chat at the start of the race, if I could get back up to 7th where I was when I spun in race one, I'll be happy. So I far exceeded that. So but yeah, it was. I can forgive myself for the boo-boo in race one now, and yeah, pretty happy with race two.
Yeah, certainly happy with race two. And how was the pressure from standing behind? Did you ever feel like he was going to get past?
I mean, it was constant, pretty much from go away, and I was battling him in race one as well after he must have been in the same boat as me and had a bit of bad luck in race one, and me and Dave, we pitted together hoping we could come out together and put a bit of gap on Snadden, and it was a bit closer if anything on the whole, as we were, I guess, you know. And I got a run on Dave there, and looked like he managed to take his opportunity and force his way through. Oh, well, I'm just not getting away from you, so...
Was there a point at which you did start to feel a bit more comfortable and realise that perhaps you didn't need to defend all that much, or the whole time were you just looking in your mirrors?
Yeah, I wasn't looking in my mirrors. I guess I was looking at my relative a lot and just measuring the gap, and I'd sort of do half a lap and I'd pull the gap out to 0.8 or nearly a second, and I'll think, oh, you know, that's a little bit of breathing space, and then you go through like another sector and you look at his 0.5 and closing, and I'm like, well, you just can't take time to breathe, you know.
No, you really can't. Particularly, like, you know, we've seen Dane Snedden. He's a very, very fast driver in just about everything these days. So you know it's a quality driver behind you who will make the move if the opportunity does present itself.
Yeah, he's a class driver. I've had a lot of battles with him, like, and he's one of those guys, you know, he's going to race you fair and clean as well. Like, I've been alongside him a lot, and I don't think we've ever run paint, but we've had a lot of good battles, and if he's just in front of you or just behind you, you know it's not going to be an easy time for you trying to gain or hold a spot.
No, it's certainly not going to be an easy time for you. And what's your goal for the final race of the season, the 1 hour enduro at Phillip Island?
I'll just get a good result if I can be up there in the top 5. I've had a bit of bad luck this season, so I don't think I'm really in championship hunt or anything. But I mean, you know, you have your bad races, you have your bad results, but then if you have a night like tonight, it makes it all worth it. So if I can finish off with a top 5, I generally don't do that well in the Enduros and GT4, and I don't really know why. We used to go to, what was the track we always used to use, and it just wasn't a good track for the Beamer. And so we've got a different schedule this season, so we'll see how we go from pace at the last round.
Yeah, well, best of luck for that round. Hopefully it comes together for you. You can finish on a high. And best of luck with everything else you're racing, GSRC and outside.
No worries. Cheers, Liam, and thanks for putting on the broadcast tonight.
No worries. Catch you soon. And with that, I think that concludes our... Oh, no, we've got one more driver coming in. I've got a late addition to the broadcast in Greg Heaney. Greg, up 4 spots from 17th to 13th in the feature race. Just talk us through your evening.
I think I'm slowly getting used to driving one of these. They're my brain is so in GT3 mode. Jumping into a GT4 is very much a different ballgame. No, happy with the end result, and well done to Dane as well for finishing 4th in the end on the second race there. Managed to get him to join the team in the last day or two, so our stable is getting larger. We're going to need a big factory to put all the cars in soon. It's getting ridiculous. No, happy with the night. I did have on lap 4 a BMW parked in front of me on the exit of turn 1, which was interesting. Come around the corner and there's a car there. It's like, well, you're not supposed to be there. Couldn't avoid it. Tagged him. Next lap round, took the pit stop, which kind of worked in my favour. I think I ended up finishing the race with about half a litre of fuel left, so I think I timed it perfectly, to be honest.
Yeah, do you remember who that was, Damien, in race 1 that went round? Because it's only right near the... Oh, it was a Liveway, wasn't it?
Liveway went around.
Oh, yeah. Aiden went round on race 1, and I think he was more dirty on himself than anything because he basically packed it up and left. And then race 2 was when I had the car parked in front of me on the exit of turn 1. So.
It might have been Paul Wood. So Paul Wood got spun in turn 1.
I think, yeah, no, it wasn't Woodsy. I managed to miss him. I think it was Lindsay. It was a yellow BMW.
Yellow BMW.
At least it was yellow on my end. Whether or not my trading paints was actually.
So, I don't know. Paul Wood went off. Well, not went off, but he got spun in turn 1, and then Jake Slade and also Sam Muir got involved. I think it was Zamora as well. Eduardo Zamora.
Yeah, there were a few cars parked pointed in every which direction for a few laps there. But I managed to avoid them. It was just, when I come around the corner and there's a yellow, that Beamer parked in front of me on the racing line coming out of turn 1, it's like, yes.
Yeah, so... Yes, he did well to avoid him in corner 1. We saw there was actually, both races almost not identical incidents, but cars ended up in almost the identical spot, which was sideways through the 3rd corner, which is not ideal.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, everyone did a really good job to stay away from him. Other than that, how was your race? How did you make up those 3 positions? Was that just through people retiring, or were you able to get a few moves done on track?
I don't think I got that many moves done on track. I think it was mostly retirees and, I wouldn't say pit strategy because I didn't really have one. It was, I've taken some damage, I'm going to pit and get it fixed and get going again. So while I was there, I took the fuel, which on the exit of pits, it's like, hang on, I've actually managed to time this perfectly. I'm going to have enough fuel to get to the end from where I am and still have a little bit left over. So, and then it was just through the cycle of pit stops was, I think, where I gained a couple of the spots. So.
Yeah, it's always good when you can make like a few spots just through strategy. I think it's one of those things that feels really satisfying behind the car, even if it's not something we genuinely get excited about watching racing. It's a really good feeling.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah. What are your goals for the final race of the season? What would going out with a bang look like for you?
Oh, top 10 finish I'd be happy with. I almost got there tonight, so... But, top 10 finish around the island would be good. If I can get Aiden to jump back in and not kill himself on the first corner again. Having all 3 of us on track at the time, being now we've got Dane as well, I reckon if we can all get inside the top 10, I reckon it'd be a good finish for us.
Yeah, well, we'll be there and we'll be cheering for you. Best of luck with that, and best of luck with all your racing until then.
No worries, and thank you boys again for putting on the stream for everybody to sit down and watch.
No, anytime, buddy. Thank you very much.
No worries.
All right, so that's a look at the green room, and there's another singular driver in there. We're all good to join into the interviews for tonight. And now that we've done the interviews, we can finish talking about the race for tonight. Instead, talk about what is coming up in the GSRC over the next couple of weeks. Well, the next week, because it's the final week of the season. This week, we got a broadcast coming to you tomorrow, and that is the Formula V's from Sebring. 3 races for them as usual, and then a 1-hour endurance race at Road America for the Super Formula Lights, which has been one hell of a series. Then on Friday, we'll bring you the Stock Car Series from I want to say Eldorado then, but it's not Eldorado. Eldora Speedway, which is a dirt oval, and that will be 3 small races starting at 8 PM Australian Eastern Standard Time. Then on Saturday, we have the Mountain Man. No broadcast for that. It's a good, fun series. The Williams FW31 around Mount Panorama. Yeah, that should be pretty spectacular. If you're not doing anything Saturday night, get involved in that. And then on Sunday, I believe, is the endurance race for the 6 hours of the Circuit de la Sarve. Then on Monday is the next broadcast after Thursday, which is the Super 2 from Mount Panorama and the GT3 from Road America. Classic track and car combinations for both of those series. Championship deciding finales. Don't miss out on that. Then on Tuesday is the up-and-comers to decide the Van Ryn Cup from Phillip Island with a collection of cars being raced there. And then we have the GT1 Civil War at Daytona International Road Course. And then back to the production cars for their final round. We mentioned it before, the GR86 at Interlagos, 15-minute race followed by a 25-minute reverse grid top 10. That should be absolutely spectacular. One of the best tracks in the world, and the GR86 is a great car for racing. And then we have Australia's GR86 champion in the field in Sam Chapman. Then on the GT4s, we have Phillip Island, 60-minute race. Should be absolutely cracking because Phillip Island is, I'm just going to say it, I think it's the best racetrack in Australia. I know that's heresy, but it is absolutely spectacular. I just think it is. Bathurst is great. Bathurst is fantastic. It's the most iconic circuit in Australia. Not doubting that. It's the one that the international people want to come, but I think Phillip Island produces stunning racing.
All right. I humbly disagree.
I stunned you to silence.
Each to their own.
Sorry, well, we'll have that debate another time. It's too close to the end of the broadcast to get stuck into that now. But if you want to support the GSRC, like I said before, all profits, it's a non-profit organisation, so all profits go back to member benefits. So if you want to support the GSRC and keep yourself warm on these cold winter nights, get yourself a hoodie, get yourself a t-shirt, or get yourself any of our other merch from the merch shop. URL is on your screen now. And then the other way you can help support the club is by becoming a sponsor. But of course, we already have a litany of sponsors that are doing that already, and we thank them for their support. And you can see them across the bottom of the screen now, starting, of course, with Waste Options, followed by Sprayton non-alcoholic cider, then Orbic Australia, Lobesy Racing, M-Wave Australia, and last but not least, Flash Graphics. And of course, there's one more pillar of support that the club relies on, and that is you, everybody that races, everybody that watches. Thank you very much for tuning in tonight. We'll see you again tomorrow night for the Formula V's and the Super Formula Lights. And Zach will be taking you through that series. Thank you very much for joining us. We will see you again soon.